Hello, fermented folks.
We have P. Jelly Clark.
All Makatsu.
We have Travis Baldry.
Today we have a really special guest, Leopoldo Gout.
Are you reeling it in and defending clowns?
I am. Earth doesn't even exist in Battlestar Galactica.
This show me heartburn. I was like, I loves it. I hate it.
It's called All Fluff.
Oh!
If you didn't know how I actually feel about The Mandalorian,
Don't worry,
this is it right here. Hello, fermented folks, and welcome to another episode of Fermented Fiction, the show where we debate the best movies, books, and shows in the genre fiction realm with our distinguished guests. Said distinguished guest tonight is Luciano Marano. Luciano, thank you so much for coming back on the show, my friend.
Oh, thank you very much for inviting me, guys. I'm thrilled to be back, and I'm stoked to talk about this show.
This show is so talkaboutable that we are going to get into, definitely the technical term, right? We are going to get all the way up into it. But before we do that, before we do our debate, we'll do a quick personal introductions from Travis and I, and then we'll have Luciano introduce himself more properly. Travis, what's going on with you? You're muted. How's it feel?
I did it.
How's it feel to be on the other side?
You know, it feels like vindication. So I'm going to preface this by saying I don't want to get into the reasons why they did this, because that's a whole nother topic for probably a much more political show. But
sure.
Two things happened recently to me that are exciting, both sad and exciting. The sad one was the CIA used to have this thing called the World Fact Book, and it's like a history teacher's, like, it's awesome. It was awesome. They got rid of it. That's the part I was pissed at. It was an online database of all the countries in the world and just like the most boring but like very helpful topics and facts about them, about like agriculture and geography and monetary things and government and like population density. All of that. Anyway, they just like got rid of it and no explanation. The page just says, sorry, it's gone now. And I was pissed. Anyway, I discovered they printed one more physical copy one. And I got that bad boy today. It's thick, it's beefy, and it's boring as hell. It's just facts about countries.
Nice.
And I'm going to be using this a lot. So this will be the last one. If anyone's a history nerd, go get yourself the last CIA World Fact Book. They're very helpful.
I'm just thrilled the dead website didn't redirect you to like Chat GPT or something.
Yeah. It's just a robot now. Just ask them and they'll tell you. No, it just is gone. And like I went on the Reddit and was like, where did it go, kind of to see like this history Reddit, and every response was a history teacher like saying the same thing, like, hey, I went to make a lesson and it was just gone. Like, where'd it go?
Terrible.
So, yeah, that's my update.
Well, I'm glad
when they came for the boring history books, I said nothing.
Yeah. That's how you know we're in really dire straits. They're even coming for that particular book. It's one thing to come for the exciting history books and to erase the extremely topical history references, but now they're coming for that book. We're in trouble. But hey, thanks for giving us the heads up, Travis. And if you're a fermented fan, you know, Travis can get you your hookups. Just ask him whatever fermented fact you need to know about world history. You can do that in our Discord. Head over there and join the Fermented Fiction Discord and ask Travis any dumb history fact you want. And if it's in that book, he'll find it.
Yep.
And I've just signed him up for a whole nother job, but that's great. My personal update, I am driving to the SeaTac Airport like 7 times over the course of the next 3 days, because I'm picking up all the special guest and like celebrity appearances for SquatchCon. So that's a very interesting job because I get to spend all day driving around with really cool, interesting, and successful creative people. But I also just have to do the same drive from SeaTac to Port Angeles a lot of times. So that's pretty much what I'm doing for the next couple days. I did my first one today. It was a lot of fun. Really great people in the car. And it's just been, it's fun to talk with creative people all day and get paid for it. So that's pretty exciting. I guess I'm doing SquatchCon stuff. SquatchCon starts tomorrow. Jeremy and I will be doing Fermented Fiction Live. I talked about that last week, but if you're in the area, come out Thursday night, 8:00, and do Fermented Fiction Live with us at the Field Hall. It'll be really fun. Jeremy even created some specialty cocktails, one of which he drank on Death Note when he did the Demonic Gentleman. That's one of them, and then he created a couple others. It's going to be really fun. I also just want to shout out real quick because I'm on online book tour right now, but the sequel to Crevasse, it exists. I don't have physical copies of it yet, but it's titled Cairn. It has a reddish-brown cover in this same kind of art style, and it is the direct sequel to Crevasse, the second in what will become a trilogy at some point in the future. You can pre-order it now. I'll put the link in the show notes, but please do that. If you liked Crevasse, you like rock climbing horror, or you want to find out if you like either of those things, go pick up the book, because pre-ordering is the best way to help your indie authors and your creative friends and all that. Luciano has a great collection out too that we're also going to try to talk you into buying, and you definitely should because his short stories are fantastic. Luciano, can you tell us a little about yourself and Gargoyle Safari and everything else people should know and how they can find you?
Yeah. Again, thanks for having me, guys. Thanks to everyone who's watching this now or later. My name's Luciano. I'm a journalist, photographer, a Navy vet, and I'm an author primarily of horror and dark fantasy. As Clay said, most recently, I guess I'm in kind of a weird place now because it's the first time in a while that I've not been hurrying to release or promote a book. So it feels weird to have time for fun things again, or just to kind of watch a show, which is a really nice way to kind of celebrate. So my most recent release I got here, Gargoyle Safari, is my debut story collection. This is out in the world now from Journalstone. 14 stories, 12 of the best things I've published since like 2017, I guess, plus 2 original stories. I'm very thrilled to have that in one place now. I think a lot of writers will sympathize. You write stories, they go many, many places, and they have a very short shelf life. So it's been really gratifying to kind of go back through all of my kind of greatest hits so far and put those together. And the reader response has been really good. I'm very gratified and thankful for that. Just prior to that, I was busy with my Christmas horror release. Humbug is my noir-infused reimagining of A Christmas Carol. So Scrooge is like this jaded, over-the-hill homicide detective chasing a serial killer known as Humbug, who every year on Christmas murders one entire family. And it's been going on for a while now. He's got like some real burnout, depression. His partner has died, and the brass is like threatening his removal. So it's a very, very dark Christmas Eve for Scrooge, when, of course, much like in the Dickens original, he gets visited by 3 ghosts who are there to sort of help him repair his life and hopefully catch the killer. My ghosts are the like monstrous disfigured spirits of 3 infamous unidentified serial killers who are sort of doing penance in the afterlife. So it's the Cleveland Torso Murderer, Zodiac, and Jack the Ripper, who show up to like sort of drag him kicking and screaming in the general direction of redemption. Whether he gets there or not, you'll have to read the book, but that's the idea.
Nice.
I love the concept. Sweet. Well, yeah, go check those things out. Luciano is a very good writer. I've had the pleasure of reading lots of his short stories, and they really, really are very good. I definitely am excited to get my own hands on Gargoyle Safari at some point, probably whenever I see you in person at a selling event. Maybe Crypticon will be the first time.
I should have plugged that. Yes, thank you for reminding me. I'll be there. At Crypticon. I'll be sharing a table with our mutual friend of the show, Gordon B. White. He and I are going on together. So stop by the table if you want to chat about short fiction in general or horror or anything at all. We're much friendlier than we seem, I promise.
Will you be killing people again?
I will. Yeah, I'll be there with my typewriter. Yeah. So this year we could do assassinations for hire, or I'm also going to have a lot of kind of custom second person flash fiction wherein just something bad happens to you in general, and those we're going to be giving away for cash donations. So come on and help us drink some beer for whatever you can spare.
Clay, I think we should kill Mom this year.
That'd be fun. Yeah,
Yeah,
Mom
it's
would
gonna
enjoy
be
being killed by Luciano for sure.
I'd be honored to murder your mother.
And we'll pay you for it. We'll pay you for it. That's money well spent. Yeah, so come by Crypticon Seattle if you're in the Seattle area, or even if you're not. It's a great horror convention. It's the first weekend of May. All of us will be there, actually. We'll be doing Fermented Fiction Live there as well. That one with Matt Dinneman and Philip Fricassi, who was on the show earlier this season to debate Severance with us.
Two great writers, man. Two great writers.
It's going to be really fun. And they already are friends, so it'll be a great chemistry. We're debating not Stephen King's. We're debating Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, which is very much not Stephen King's The Shining, and we'll talk about all the reasons why. It's going to be fun. But first, we're going to debate Supernatural, because that's a hell of a show, isn't it? And it's... Boy, is it ever. It has been out there a while. It ran for a long time. It has a rabid, devoted fan base. And we're probably going to piss a lot of people off. But, we might also have a lot of people on our side. Because I don't know how Luciano feels about this at all. And I really have no idea how to judge it. It's going to be a fun debate.
Dude, I had at least 4 people, at least 4 people texted me after they saw your Instagram post about this. And they were like, "You're doing Supernatural? Oh my God, Supernatural!" So I know a lot of people I know are like secretly really, really fans of this show.
Yes. Yep. Yes. Yep. Supernatural is like, well, we'll talk about it. Let me do a quick summary, because we always try to do that. And just so you know, we are going to spoil the show all the way up to season 5 and possibly beyond. So if you want to go watch it and you haven't yet, go away and come back. This episode will exist in presumed perpetuity on our YouTube channel, on our Discord, on our Substack. So you can always come back and watch it. But if you don't care about spoilers, just continue watching right now. Or if you've already seen the show and you're one of Luciano's friends who's secretly hiding their love for Supernatural somewhere, some dark corner of their house.
One literally asked me, "Are you guys doing the whole thing or just the first 5?"
Really? Yes.
Everybody. Excellent. Yes. The first.
Those are 2 different things. And we'll talk about that for sure. So Supernatural, if you don't already know, and we are doing seasons 1 through 5 today. Supernatural is a massive show. Maybe we'll come back and do a couple other chunks, but for this time, seasons 1 through 5, because that's kind of a coherent storyline that all ties together with one another, and then it goes other places afterwards. So the premise, basically, is there's 2 brothers, Sam and Dean. In season 1, they are trying to find their dad who has gone missing. Their dad is a professional monster hunter. This is a world where there's sort of this underground network of monster hunters called Hunters. And they're all they still keep it under wraps from the general public, but a lot of people are out there hunting lots of different creatures. And basically every creature you can think of exists, except for Sasquatch. As Dean says, that Sasquatch is indeed a hoax. But Sam and Dean, in the hunt for their dad, run into a different monster in every episode, basically, in the first season. And then they kind of stumble their way into this larger scheme of demons trying to open the gates of hell and let out Satan and conquer the world and burn it to the ground and send all the human souls to hell. That's kind of the gist of it. Sam and Dean find themselves entirely embroiled in that. And we'll talk all about why and how, but that's basically the premise. In their hunt to find their dad, they hunt lots of monsters along the way, and then they get embroiled in this demonic plot to destroy the world, and they have to stop it. Yeah. And do you guys think I need to add anything summary-wise, or we can get into the debate?
I would just note for anyone who was totally oblivious, I find that hard to believe that anybody was, because this show was everywhere. But if you were too young maybe to pay attention, or if you grew up in the age of primarily streaming services and only know this as something that shows up on your wish list or watch list every once in a while, this thing was everywhere. It is impossible to overstate the cultural impact of this show for a couple years. Absolutely.
Certainly the biggest show from the CW. With the exception of what is that one teenager soap opera?
Riverdale?
No, I wasn't thinking of Riverdale. The other one.
Are you talking about Dawson's Creek?
Dawson's Creek.
Dawson's
Yeah,
Creek.
Dawson's Creek. Is
Um,
huge.
it was up there with Dawson's Creek for sure. Probably, I don't know if it was bigger. Probably was bigger than Dawson's Creek.
Possibly. I think too, a thing to note for audiences who may not, maybe the younger side of our audience. I don't know how old that is.
The Youngs.
The Youngs. Eric Kripke made Supernatural, and he is huge again with The Boys, which is one of the most popular
Yes.
shows on streaming right now. So it's definitely not something that was made by like a no name and then just gone away. Like Kripke's been hitting home runs popularity wise for a while.
Yep. Massive show. Absolutely massive. You will still go to a random horror convention or horror workshop and there will be a 67 Impala there, and all black with the nice chrome trimmings on the ends. Just because, yeah, that's Dean's car, and boy, is it ever a cool car. And we don't get to get any breaks from how cool Eric Kripke thinks that car is, or how much he loves 80s hair metal. So yeah, let's get into this debate because boy, there's so much to talk about. And if I summarize it anymore, I'll just start talking about my ideas and my opinions.
All right.
You ready to roll, Luciano?
Yeah, just let me know. Am I pro or con?
Let's
Do you
go.
have
You gotta roll for it.
dice?
Oh, I don't. I'm sorry.
I forgot to put. That's okay. We have a guest dice. So
We do.
Luciano, this dice that I'm about to roll for full transparency is a high risk, high reward. There's more ones on it, but there's also more 20s. So let's see how we.
That's how I live.
There you go.
I got a 3. I'm so sorry.
I rolled a 5. Usually,
I didn't lose by much.
usually that's plenty to lose, but not
All
today.
right.
Not today.
Ladies and gentlemen, folks, the DM curse is real. I am DMing again, and as you've noticed, I have lost every dice roll since starting the game again. So anyway,
Indeed.
that sucks.
So, Clay, you get to choose
Luciano,
then, right? If you won, you get to choose. Is that how it works?
Nope, just means I debate for it. So you hate Supernatural officially on the record for the next 10 minutes.
Hold on. Let me just pulling up my notes here real quick.
it's got to flip to the hate
Yeah.
side. There
Yeah.
it is. All right, you two will have 10 minutes to debate. This is a shared 10-minute timer. No filibustering, please. We always say hits below the belt are permitted, but try and be polite or not. It's up to you. Are you both ready?
Oh yeah.
All right, your 10-minute timer begins in 3, 2, 1.
All right. Supernatural. As Luciano said in our introduction, this show was absolutely massive. It was absolutely everywhere, and there's lots of good reasons for that. It was an entertaining, compelling show with relatable characters and a plot line that was pretty easy to follow. It was easy to get sucked into this show, and you can do that in 2 different ways, which I think is one of the greatest strengths of the show. This show functions really well as a monster of the week serial drama with speculative elements. You could watch one episode, you could watch it sequentially, you could jump into the middle of pretty much any given season with maybe the exception of like season 5 where they were pretty embroiled in their overarching plot, and you could enjoy it. I started watching Supernatural that way. A friend showed it to me in college and I think showed me like halfway through season 3, and it was one of the Monster of the Week episodes, and I was like, I mean, how have I not watched this already? If you are a monster nerd, if you are a fan of the supernatural, if you're a fan of paranormal mystery and action, like it's all embroiled in there with these really strong speculative elements. Yet it's also really fun just for the general monster nerds out there. If you just love learning about new monsters and exploring new monsters from new places. I mean, sure, they're pretty much all happening in America, and we can have a conversation about that. But there's monsters from all around the world in America, which makes sense because people from all around the world live here in America. So it still kind of like worked for me in that regard, even though I could see how potentially it's problematic. But like, ultimately, you get to explore folklore, monsters, mythologies from all around the world through this character lens of like two characters that you become really close to because there's like 25 episodes a season or whatever it is. So you spend a lot of time with Sam and Dean. You get to know who they are on a lot of different levels, and you get to see how they handle lots of different kinds of adversity, emotional, psychological, even physical adversity, like all those sort of explorations of both their characters, the plot are very thorough and well done and engaging, and it's just a blast of a show. And you can start anywhere in it, but once you do, you're probably going to want to go back and watch the whole thing because you'll realize while they had the Monster of the Week structure, they also are building towards something much more large and much more grandiose that connects everything really nicely. And I think in the first 5 seasons specifically, they did a really good job of that. And you can tell they were building to it from the beginning. Like that's how they wrote the show. And that is always something I like to see, like when I can look back from season 5 and be like, oh, they actually meant to do that. Like they alluded to this in season 1 and they've done like 100 episodes. So that's pretty impressive. So yeah, I'm sure you'll just make up some bullshit, Luciano, but what do you think isn't good about this awesome show?
You know, it will surprise you to know that I actually agree with everything that you just said, but I feel that what you're describing is this show at its best, which is a much, much smaller percentage of episodes than you are perhaps remembering accurately. What you said is true for the good episodes, but there are so many bad episodes, even in the first 5 seasons. My biggest problem with this show, which I agree is very entertaining, is that it's very, very silly and it is unforgivably complicated. And these are problems that it devises for itself. So you talk about the overarching storyline working as well as the individual Monster of the Week episodes. I could not disagree with you more about that. I agree that the individual standalone episodes are a hell of a lot of fun, but as soon as they try to do something more complicated or deeper or more emotionally impactful, you can like hear all of the writers sitting around the table going like, this is fucking gay, bro. Like, I don't know why we're fucking trying so hard here with this. They can't, even like little things like, okay, there's a gun that kills anything. That's a fantastic idea. I love that idea. Except you find out when you really need it to work, oh no, wait, I forgot to tell you, there are like 4 or 5 things that it can't kill. So it's like, oh yeah, it's like the way little kids play a game.
I was just thinking that. I have a force field. I have titanium alloy.
You can't go past the bushes because that's fire. Oh, well, it's not fire now because I cast a spell that means it's not fire. You can feel them straining to take it seriously themselves. And I think that's honestly an unfortunate side effect of the success of the show, where they were like, oh crap, we may have to keep this going for a long time. Like, what are we supposed to do? The other thing, I'll say one more thing before I toss it back to you. The acting, while earnest, is not good. None of these performances. I believe they're all trying hard, but so are like high schoolers in a high school play. That does not make it good. Every episode ends with like, okay, Sam, make the sad puppy face. And then it's like, okay, Dean, glare at the horizon like you're Clint Eastwood. And he does that. And then everybody counts to 3 and then carry on my wayward son. Cut. That's a wrap, bitches.
I mean, you're forgetting the revving of that really nice, throaty 67 Impala engine and the squealing of rubber as they peel off into the sunset to kill the next monster. But I agree. That is essentially
I'm not forgetting that. The car is my favorite character, and I have no notes.
No notes.
Chef's kiss.
Definitely the best actor in the show. And that is something I'll agree with you on. I don't know. I would agree with you, but there are episodes where I think that maybe the show takes itself too seriously, but there's just as many where I think the show does a good job of demonstrating that it's doing just the opposite. I don't think it does take it itself too seriously, and I actually think some of its strongest episodes are those that lean into the humorous aspects, and they do a really good job still of keeping horror as the central theme, like the central thematic glue of the episodes. A really good example is like the one where they get arrested. They're like in a small town, they get arrested and the FBI catches up to them. There's that FBI agent that's following them through several episodes. He catches up to them. there's a lot of humor in that episode, from when Dean shows up and he's making his Dean jokes, and Sam and Dean are in the cell, and there's actually like it's a quite a funny episode and quite an endearing, like heartwarming episode. They kind of team up. They refuse Meg's like plan to murder a virgin girl so that all of the demons will get vaporized. But then they follow that up with the introduction of Lilith, who is a demon that shows up on the scene and obviously is a big problem. You always know if a demon named Lilith is around, then she's going to be a powerful demon. And she shows up and murders everybody after Sam and Dean had left. She kills the entire police station because she's like behind them looking for them, and she just kind of does that to send a message. So you had this episode that is it shows a lot of the good side of the characters. It shows the intentionality behind what they do. And there's lots of episodes leading up to that where they're questioning whether they're doing the right thing. Both Sam and Dean, for different reasons, are questioning if they can continue to hunt or if they kill things without thinking about it enough, and if they feel enough from the death and stuff that they cause. And then you have this nice, like, galvanizing moment for them, and then it turns to shit because they are fighting demons, they are fighting evil, and the evil is still very powerful. So that kind of keeps the horror present too. The trickster narrative is another really good example. The trickster episodes are super fun, and they're honestly pretty complicated, but I feel like it does get explained pretty well when you find out that the trickster is actually an angel, and that's why the way they tried to kill him didn't work. And they picked an angel who is sort of on the sidelines of a lot of things, but isn't necessarily the center point like Michael and Lucifer. So I think they did that. That's a good example of tying in both humor and the larger story with the Monster of the Week episodes. But I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think you're doing a great job of explaining what is a ridiculously complicated tapestry of characters. And also, I think that this show really falls down in the stakes department. For all of the focus on horror and violence and like this depiction of a gritty, rural highways and byways Americana kind of thing, like they live in these like crap motels or they camp and they go to strip clubs and they drink beer and all that. It's not a very gritty show, and you very quickly realize that nothing bad is going to happen to any of the characters you're supposed to really care about unless it's broadcast heavy in advance. Like Sam and Dean are never going to die. That's actually maybe their punishment, is that these characters will just keep doing this for all of eternity. And nothing will ever change because they just take turns being dead or cursed or damned or saved. Or then there's always an angel to come around. It's actually what's killing Marvel with like the multivariant timelines kind of thing and the time variance authority. You may as well just have other dimensions in which Sam and Dean continue on forever because nothing ever really matters. I also have a problem with the idea that this is an extremely Judeo-Christian worldview of the occult and the afterlife. And we're really getting bogged down in some kind of like Dante Milton type structure of the afterlife and the underworld, which becomes just a soap opera in 5 seconds. And a lot of it doesn't really matter, because if you just point at like the thing they're supposed to be fighting, we all sort of go like, oh yeah, sure, that's the thing this week, I guess. Or maybe it was that guy. Who knows? It's Travis 2, 1.
I gotta cut you off, Luciano. I'm so sorry.
Beautiful.
So sorry.
Beautiful.
Gotta cut you off.
There's never going to be enough time.
No, 10
Great
minutes is
debate.
not going to cover it.
We will have enough time to talk about our opinions in just a second. But before we do that, we always bring out drink of the week. We used to call it beer of the week, but a lot of us stopped drinking beer explicitly and making cocktails and stuff. So now it's just drink. It's fermented drink of the week. Clayton, you're already holding your up. What do you got there?
Well, this one's good for a couple reasons. I have had this one on the show before, but I actually really enjoy it. It's from Elysian, so that's a local brewery out of Seattle. And then this one's kind of perfect because it's got a jackalope, first of all.
Nice.
The lads never have to kill a jackalope because I don't know why you would really need to kill one. But, you know, I'm sure that in the world of Supernatural, they probably exist. And then he's also at this kind of like roadside hotel in the middle of nowhere. No
Probably got a strip
vacancy.
club next to it. Yeah.
No, color TV, but no vacancy. This is exactly the kind of hotel right here where Sam and Dean would find themselves, and that's the kind of environment where they'd be hunting, you know, a skinwalker or something, or werewolves or vampires. It'd be perfect. Or maybe jackalopes, you know? I don't know if a jackalope starts fucking around, how dangerous it could be, but you never know.
I'd watch that episode.
Yeah,
I
oh,
would too.
I mean, that would be one of the humor episodes for sure, where Dean gets like fucked up by a jackalope and Sam's making fun of him the rest of this. It'd be great.
They
you
could
know?
easily do like a Monty Python thing with the rabbit.
Yes, like the
demon
yeah.
bunny that rips people's throats out. I forget.
And
its
they have
name,
to
but-
find a holy hand grenade, and they find
Yeah.
out that that's actually like real lore. That would be great.
That would be excellent. We could have written for this shit. Anyway,
Yeah. What
Uh,
are you doing, Kripke?
yeah, come on.
Still going or what?
So I went into the liquor store to buy a celebratory bottle of bourbon, since this is my first episode for my no drinking hiatus of 46 days. And I was going to get something that I knew and loved, maybe like Never Sweat from Butte or Basil Hayden or something. And then I saw this and I couldn't resist that. I thought it was, a little fitting to the show. Two bitch. just two bitch bourbon out of Las
Nice.
Vegas, Nevada. So it's pretty good. I've never had it before, but yeah.
I think that's perfect.
you can maybe reference Sam and Dean as two bitches. Anyway, Luciano. what do
Sam
you
gets
think?
called a bitch all the time.
He
Yeah.
really does, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does.
All right, I am drinking Monk's Uncle. It is a Belgian beer from Pike Brewing. I chose this because monks have a sort of a quasi-religious connotation, much like this show. And I have also been drinking a lot less beer lately, and this has a pretty respectable alcohol content. This is like a 9.9%, so I figured I won't need to drink much to get a little buzz going.
There you
And
go.
a little buzz is only going to help this show.
Very true.
All right. Now I will name 10 facts about the show. Only 10, because I don't want to be here all day. And there's a lot of facts about a 15 season show that ran for 16 years. So if I missed any of your favorites, Luciano or Clay, please jump in there after the 10. And I won't lie, there is a bonus one today because I just couldn't resist putting it in. So there's actually 11. Normally it's 10. Don't get used to the bonus one, guys. All right.
Unless you go to Patreon, and maybe there's a
unless
bonus
you
one
go
over
to,
there.
I might throw some bonus ones on Patreon for you. I don't know.
Although this is
number one.
supernatural, so any rules he just set won't matter in 5 seconds.
Very true.
That's
Very true.
All right,
Luciano
number
has
one.
shot us with the cold on that one.
He did. It's a kill shot, unless you're one of the 4 things that it.
Well,
doesn't.
I actually have titanium alloy in my hat here, so pretty safe.
All
But
right. I'm a demon, but I'm a different kind of demon. Not the one that dies from the cold.
right.
Totally true.
All right. Number one. There is a particular clock, the Starburst clock from the mid-century modern architecture time, that shows up in nearly every single episode of Supernatural. It's the one you could probably imagine it. Look up a picture, but it's the one that's like metal fingers that kind of burst out like a shining light thing.
Yeah. Interesting.
It's in almost every episode. for
Now
some
that
reason.
you mention it, I can see that clock,
yeah,
like in all the episodes.
yep.
I wonder if that's
Interesting.
supposed to be like a subtle joke about how all of these hotels are sort of the same place.
Maybe.
It doesn't matter where you go. And like time is, you can't do anything about time. It's just going to keep going.
Yeah, it's always going to be mid-century modern for forever.
Yeah.
Originally,
including the cars.
including the cars. Originally, Jensen Ackles was auditioned for the role of Sam Winchester. Jared Padalecki came in and read for Sam. At a slight recasting was done. The producers called Jensen, asked if he'd rather use his charm for Dean, saying he was the Han Solo character of the duo. And what kid didn't grow up wanting to be Han Solo? Jensen accepted, and it became known that he was previously interested in that role because Dean was funny. While it may be coincidental, the choice of the name Winchester, this is one of my favorite facts, is from the famous Winchester Mansion in California, which most people who listen to our show probably know about. If you're one of the ones that don't, the Winchester Mansion is a famously haunted house that was continually reconstructed until the death of the owner, Sarah Winchester, the wife of the gun magnate that made the Winchester rifle. And she purportedly rebuilt it over and over and over again because she thought it was severely haunted by all of the spirits of the guns of her husband's guns had killed. And so she there's trapdoors that lead nowhere. little like hollowed out spaces that you can fall down to the basement, like all these crazy rooms in it, and it's massive. So that was a supernatural tale they based the name off of. Whenever Sam is shown sleeping in a bed, wide shots typically show that his feet hang over the end of the bed, a silent testament to the fact that the actor is 6'4". He's a huge man, and he makes Dean look short, even though Jensen Ackles is 6'1". So that's
I
insane
really
to me.
love to pretend that kept Jensen awake, man. I love
Yeah.
I do
too.
I hope so.
I'm sure
As
he's a
a
bigger man than me. I'm sure he's over it. But all those shots where they stand next to each other, I just hope he like goes home and drinks and watches that shit and he just.
As someone who is 5'6", married to a woman who's 5'10", I feel that on a very deep level, Luciano. In season 2, Linda Blair guest starred as detective investigating the brothers. At the end of the episode, she says, "I need you two out there doing what you do. I know I'll sleep better at night," which was definitely a nod to The Exorcist, which she played the daughter, Regan, famously. And even another nod was Dean says as she looks away, "Does she look familiar to you?"
Mhm.
And then proclaims that he is craving pea soup. And I thought that's a pretty funny reference. Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki grew up in Texas, Jensen in Richardson and Jared in San Antonio. And now both of them live together. Well, they don't live in the same house, but they live in Austin and still hang out and are close friends with their wives and children, which is pretty
When
cool.
you said they live together, like a million Supernatural fans just went, "I knew it! I knew it!"
No, they don't. They don't.
A lot
live
of
in the
fan
same
fictions
house.
just came true.
Yeah, they
A
live.
lot
You
of
heard
fan
it here
fiction just
first.
became canon.
They live in the same city with their wives and children, and they're still friends. Oh my word! You're right. Someone's gonna clip that and be like,
And y'all know
confirmed.
that those houses are just full of antiques.
Yeah, probably.
They've done so much antiquing together.
Probably.
Oh, yeah.
This one I like just because I love the actor, Timothy Omen's son, who's very famous for like, funny kind of TV roles. He was in Psych. He was in Starship Troopers. One of my favorite is he's in, what was it called? Now I'm gonna forget it. Gallivant. He's King Richard in Gallivant. I love the guy.
Oh, yeah.
The role of Cain,
Gallivant was awesome.
it was awesome. The role of Cain was written specifically for him. Like Kripke just loved him, and the creators loved him, and they were like, "We gotta get a character for this guy," and so they wrote Cain for Timothy Omenson to be in the show. This one was interesting. Whenever the brothers are introduced by themselves or others, they're almost always referred to as Sam and Dean because Jared Padalecki had the first credit in the opening credits of the first season because he was kind of the top billed actor and the main character of the through line plot. But there's 3 episodes, one in season 1, one in season 8, and two in season 8, where they say the other way, Dean and Sam. So only 3 episodes are they ever referred to as Dean and Sam and not Sam and Dean.
Sam and Dean has a way better ring to it.
It does. It's catchier. I liked this one personally as well. Jensen Ackles and Jeffrey Dean Morgan are well known in the voice acting world for Batman roles. Jeffrey Dean Morgan has cameoed as Thomas Wayne, both in the live action Batman versus Superman and also in one of the animated ones, I forget. Jensen Ackles is the voice of Red Hood in what I think is one of the best animated Batman films, Batman Under the Red Hood. Really good.
You love that one.
It's so good. He's in a supporting role in Smallville. And Jensen also voices Batman in Batman The Long Halloween Parts 1 and 2, which is a newer one that I haven't seen. So
he's got a good voice for Batman.
He does. And he did the Red Hood excellently. This one was very cool and sweet and is the 10th fact, which I was going to make the last, but I couldn't help myself with an extra. Number 10, at least 3 couples met and formed romantic relationships because of the show. Jared Padalecki and Genevieve Cortez, who played Ruby, are married and have 3 children. Rob Benedict, who played Chuck Shirley, and Ruth Connell, who played Rowena, are in a committed relationship and have one child. And DJ Qualls and Ty Olson, Garth and Benny announced their relationship and engagement in May of 24. So that's
Nice.
pretty cool.
That's awesome.
And then bonus fact, I had to do it because Luciano said this is your favorite character. There's only 17 episodes in the whole show that do not feature Baby, which is the nickname of Deans and Paula. So Deans and Paula is in all but 17 episodes of the entire 15 season run. We get
That's
to see
wild.
that beautiful, beautiful car.
And every one of those episodes suffers irreversibly.
Without the
Yes.
car.
Yes.
And that is my 10 facts. Did I miss any of y'all's that you would have thought of?
No.
Oh, I would add, this isn't really a fact, but I'll wait for my real opinion on the show. I'm gonna piggyback off something Luciano said in his, but I
Yeah.
think we can jump right into those. So
Well,
Luciano,
Clay, I was going to say, Clay, you seemed pretty eager to proclaim the virtues of the show. Is that how you really feel?
We always start with the debater against Luciano. This is
All
my
right, all right,
show.
I'll say-
Okay.
Yeah, can't flip the script.
I enjoyed this a lot, and I enjoyed it the first time around. I have seen every episode of the first 5 seasons at least once. Many of them I've seen twice. It's hard for me to separate a bit of nostalgia from what I was doing when this show was huge. I was in the Navy. I was traveling quite a bit. I had these DVDs with me where, out on the ship or in the barracks or in my first apartment or whatever, I watched this show a lot. So putting that aside, I do think a lot of it holds up pretty well, at least these seasons. I'm not going to, afterwards, I just pretend it doesn't exist after 5. But in these first 5, it's fun. Man, the concept is awesome. Like you want to ride around the country in a muscle car with your best bud, like fighting monsters. This is a great idea. The aesthetics of the show are a lot of fun. I like the sets. I love them. The practical effects are really good. And some of the bad computer stuff is like kind of its time. I don't know if you can totally blame them for that, but the monsters all look cool. The demons with the eyes and the effects, I think, oh, that's great. The folklore is very well researched, and the demonology, while I do think it becomes complicated and tedious, like there is a logic to it. It does sort of make sense if you're willing to sit through all the who's who and why's why of it. I think this show is ultimately, I love that it's the perfect example of its medium, of this format of large scale, wide appeal, mass market TV drama. And all of the good and bad things about that format are so very obvious in this show. So yes, I did enjoy it a lot. I would rewatch the first, I guess I'll say there are like 3 seasons of great TV in this 5 seasons. And those 3 seasons, I would rewatch those before I'd rewatch a lot of stuff. I would rewatch those before I rewatch a ton of contemporary stuff. And that, it's an enjoyable show, man. I think if any part of Clay's summary at the beginning of this kind of spoke to you and you've not watched it yet, I highly recommend you check out at least the first 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Clay?
And I agree with you. I think there's 3 seasons of really good television too. I think it's like seasons 2 through 4 are the best. But there's some great episodes in season 1. Honestly, episodes 3 through 8 are really good. That's like with the Wendigo and there's the Wendigo and there's the Lady in the Lake one, and that was a great, that one was really fun with the guy that gets drowned in his sink, cleaning a fish and stuff. There was some cool stuff in those early seasons. And back then it was pretty wholeheartedly Monster of the Week. Again, they go back but first 3 seasons, it's very Monster of the Week, very procedural. And, it's like X-Files, but more shoot 'em up. And less about the mystery and figuring it out. They do that too, but they also shoot them up generally. They usually solve the problem with a gun or some kind of ritual. But like you said, Luciano, there's a lot of actual researched folklore. I'm sure there's, you can genuinely learn about some cool monsters. Now you're learning it in a 40-minute episode. So of course, take it with a grain of salt. You want to have salt on you at all times anyway if you're watching this show.
So much salt.
Gotta have salt. Just have it.
Yep.
Just have it. But it's certainly not a perfect show. And there's a ton of problems with it. I mean, it's severely overacted. The best way I can describe it is a soap opera for supernatural nerds. And specifically male supernatural nerds. It is definitely geared toward a male monster nerd audience, and it is a soap opera for you. If it is the male equivalent of like if your partner likes to watch trashy reality shows and you don't, and they say, well, just watch one episode with me, and then by the end you're hooked on the trashy reality show. Like that's what Supernatural is for men. It's so, and that is a problem with it, I think, that you could talk about. It's definitely pretty misogynistic at a lot of places. A sign of the times. I don't think it was particularly misogynistic for when it was made. But when you rewatch it from like the modern perspective, you can see that being problematic for people. So if you're going to go back and watch it, just be aware of when it was made. And it's made in the way that you might think when
it's extremely white.
Yeah.
There's like 4 people of color in this all 5 seasons.
Yes, and when they're in the show, they are the episode. Which again, problematic. Like you have the demon truck thing, that episode, which cool episode, lots of good ideas in there, but yeah, it's not a diverse show in any way.
What's the one they had Sterling K. Brown as a hunter. His name is I think his name is Gordon, actually.
Gordon.
Yeah. But the whole point of that show is that he's doing it wrong.
Right. Yeah. Gordon's like, he's a really good hunter, but yeah, the only hunter that is a person of color, and he's like the biggest asshole hunter of all the hunters. Classic problem there. So all that stuff is there. That's all stuff I could see turning people off from the show. When I watched it, I was a very white man in college. So none of that really registered to me, to be completely honest. I look back at it now from a very different perspective, but I can still watch it. I can still have a lot of fun with it. Like you, Luciano, can't separate it from a very deep level of nostalgia, because if you were my particular demographic, the show is aimed directly at you. And it aims pretty good. Like it's a pretty good shot. It was pretty hard to not get sucked right into it for me. And I still enjoy rewatching it. There's a lot of fun episodes. There's lots of good comedy. There's a lot mixed with drama. And it's overacted for sure, but both of those guys are good actors. More it's the bit characters and stuff that can fall pretty flat. But I think the characters who matter the most, including like Bobby Singer, played by Jim Beaver, he's awesome. Mm-hmm. The gal who played Bella was really good. I thought the guy who played Lucifer was great. He was one of the better Lucifers I've seen on TV, to be honest, of all Lucifers I could think of. Because there's been some pretty bad Lucifers, but I thought he was quite good. Castiel's a good actor. I think he's from this area. He's from like Bellingham or something.
Misha Collins.
Misha Collins. He's from the Pacific Northwest. But yeah, I mean, ultimately I really liked it, but I also can completely, if somebody watches it and they're like, this is stupid, I'm like, correct.
Sure.
What else do you, what else?
You're so right, dude. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know that. What else?
If you told me this is your favorite show, I'd be like, yeah, I get it. If you told me I can't stand that show, I'd be like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I get
There's
it.
no wrong answer.
No, exactly. It's like the original Star Wars trilogy. Like, you could sit here and poke all kinds of holes in like how that's a basic hero's journey, and like Luke Skywalker is a whiny bitch of a protagonist, and like you could poke a million holes in that and still be like, well, yeah, but Star Wars is cool, right? And yeah, of course it is. Yeah. I would say that's a pretty good comparison, honestly. Like any problems that Star Wars has, Supernatural kind of has those same problems. And it's a really fun show. If you're into monsters and you're into Monster Hunters and you don't care about all those other turnoffs that I listed before, then I think you'll really enjoy it. And just understand you're watching a soap opera for like 20-year-old men. And I think then you'll really be able to enjoy it. Because if you can fully embrace that and you can get past the overacting, which frankly you get used to, it's like sitting in a hot tub that's too hot. Like when you first get in, you're like pretty uncomfortable and you're like, oh, I don't know, maybe I just got a couple minutes in me, and you say that to everybody. And then, 15, 20 minutes later, you're all still in the hot tub and you're having a good time and you're totally forgotten that it was too hot at some point. I think that's very much how the acting in the show goes. Because a
lot of these fans have spent a lot of time thinking about Supernatural in a hot tub. I'm sure that's a good one.
Yes. And if you want to take your fandom to the next level, get into the Supernatural subreddits and read some fan fiction, because boy, is there ever some of that. It is a lot. And yeah, that's what I have to say. I love Supernatural. I understand it's not for everybody, but if anything I've said appeals to you, then I think you'd have a good time with it. It's also cringingly 90s. Not 90s, but early 2000s, like in terms of effects and everything. They do some pretty cool, genuinely cool monster work, but like the shaky cam slow motion, the bad CGI, the fact that pretty much it's not as bad as like, what was that show? What was the show? It was shot in Oregon. It's a monster show. And Grimm. It's not like Grimm, where literally every creature is just a human, but like with the different set of teeth,
with a face,
but with like a monster face. But there is a level of that, like the werewolf episode. You're not going to be jacked about the werewolves. You're going to be like lame. The vampires were cool though, with the whole second set of retractable teeth. So they do some cool monster stuff, but just don't expect to be blown away by the early aughts CGI, and get used to, just like the bad acting, Crypty's love for the like slow motion shaky cam. He just can't not do it, and it's not good, but he doesn't care.
Nope.
Travis,
I don't think he doesn't do it much in The Boys. I watched 3 seasons of The Boys. I got turned off on it. I feel like it turned into gratuity for the sake of gratuity, but I don't think he does a lot of the same filmmaking techniques, so I don't know if he just like adapted for the times or whatever, but it's interesting to see the difference in how he kind of created that show versus this one. Also, this ran from 2005 to 2020. I don't know if we ever said that, but yeah, definitely early aughts. And another element that I don't think either of you have mentioned that would draw a lot of people, they're hot people. Everyone in this show is hot. It's got that. Yeah,
as long as you think white people are hot. Yes.
That's fair.
They're the hottest people that we have as white people.
Even when like the few problematic the times when they bring on non-white people, which are way too few, like you guys said, but like Sterling K. Brown, that he's a hot man. Like everyone on this show has a chiseled jaw and looks pretty damn good. So if you're into that, same with the soap operas, like everyone's going to look good and very well put together. But all of that jokiness aside, I'm a big fan of Supernatural, at least the first 5 seasons. And I may have made it further than you two. I know I made it further than Clay. Luciano, how far did you make it in this show?
I watched sporadic episodes after this. I went online and found a lot of lists of like fan favorite episodes or supposedly like the best critically reviewed episodes, and I watched some other ones. And then of course I had to watch like the Scooby-Doo crossover just because I'm like a Scooby-Doo kid. Yeah, that was wonderful. I watched some others. And then I was debating whether or not to actually watch the true like series finale. And by then I was so Supernaturaled out. I just Wikipedia'd it. I'm not gonna lie. I did not watch the actual end.
I heard it was bad.
Everybody hated it online so much. I thought what's the best case scenario here? I can be more like specifically upset. Why?
So I made it 12 and a half seasons. I made it 12 and a half seasons of Supernatural.
And you're talking about every...
Where did I put that bourbon? I'm totally fine. I've got nothing to go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And you're talking every single episode of those 12 seasons.
How bad this show gets, and I'll just be very honest about it, is I complete everything. I famously on the show have talked about the fact that I hate watched 9 seasons of Friends because I tried to get in a debate with my friend and they were like, well, you haven't finished it, so you can't talk. And so I went home and I finished the whole damn show, came back and was like, this show is garbage and here's why. So yeah, I finish most projects I start when it comes to watching television, and I couldn't get past season 13 of Supernatural. It got bad. There were some plot lines that I was like, okay, their mother's back for the 3rd time. Great. Yeah, I'm done. I'm done with this show. Why are we time traveling now? I don't know why most of this stuff is going on. But the first 5 seasons, I think, are everything you guys have said is true. I'm not going to expand on it anymore. It's a great example of episodic Monster of the Week television. It basically took like the winning kind of method of Law and Order and was like, what if we did that but with the cryptids? And I think that's such a cool premise to take like a beloved, way of filming television and just be like, I want to bring that into this nerdy thing that I really like, which is cryptids and hair metal. And that's what Kripke did. And I think he provided a pretty cool through line for the 2 primary characters, which is a big deal with episodic television. It's awesome to have Monster of the Week, but you have to care enough about the people to keep coming back and care about their like one plot line that comes up every 5 episodes or so. By the way, little side note for the Matt Denneman fans, I really like that he's shoeing that in for like the dungeons of how every 3 episodes is like a major city boss level, and then it's like just random crawl stuff. Pretty cool. So it's kind of like that. What Denneman's pointing to is what this show does. Another interesting facet about it, and my personally that I found was it is definitely Judeo-Christian like pointing, but not also. When you get like deeper into theology, you realize it's very loose with the actual teachings of the traditions it's pulling from. But what I found cool was everything in the like general plot surrounding like the angels and demons fight is at least a true reference to something, even if it's like a heresy or like a teaching that's not like condoned by the church. Like it's an actual thing. Like I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like a teaching that exists in the world. They did research that was very deep into possibly like I can't think of the dang word, like non-canonical stuff that wasn't put in the Bible. Like there's stuff in here out of the Gnostic Gospels, which are not accepted by any Christian church, but like have really interesting facets of like the supernatural world you can pull from. And there's definitely like philosophical disagreements with a lot of it, but I found that cool of like anytime I ran into something where I was like, that's not right theology, I would go looking and I'd find it somewhere else and I'd be like, oh, I still don't agree with it, and it's not part of like what I believe is Christianity, but it's something that's real and that you could research and that you could find that people did believe. And I thought that was pretty cool that they weren't just pulling all of this like large theological ideals and whatever out of their ass. They were doing the research. It seemed like Kripke cared about the things he was writing about.
Yeah, and he didn't just read Dante's Inferno and Paradise Lost and go, let's do Sexy Satan,
Yeah.
Like he had his own take on this stuff because he had done enough research to have his own take. At least that's how it felt to me. And I think that goes with the folklore too. Like, because that's also like ancient religion just as much as Christianity is. And pulling from that is it carries an equal level of gravity to me. So I think that he did that research for those things as well. And again, like, you're getting a very loose interpretation of it, and you shouldn't watch an episode of Supernatural and be mad that like, that's not how Wendigos work. It's like, well, no shit. But like, there's enough of how Wendigos work for that to be like a relatively loyal interpretation of the monster, relative to the show. And I think that for most of the creatures in the show, at least the ones that I've looked into or been more interested in, I found that to be pretty consistently the case.
Yeah, one of my favorite examples is like of the thing I was very poorly trying to talk about is the Lilith plot line.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, it's a good
people
example.
talk about Lilith a lot. Like Lilith isn't really in much writing. There's not much like evidence for the character of Lilith in much Jewish writing and much Christian writing, but there's like a couple little snippets that reference this possible character of Lilith. And like the snippets that we do historically have, you could definitely base the supernatural character of Lilith off of them. And there's not really much contention with that. And I thought that was cool of like, you took this like tiny thing that became this cultural phenomenon of a sort, but there's not much really reference to the character at all. And you expanded it into something that actually works within the context of these few lines we have about this character, which I thought was cool.
Yeah,
I totally agree. One of my favorite examples of what you're discussing is, I can't remember if it's season 2 or 3, but it's the Robert Johnson episode, the one about the hell chasing people, right? So Johnson famously died very young of what we now think was intentional poisoning because he was fooling around with many other men's wives, although it might have just been badly made like homebrew alcohol. And so he did die like screaming and ranting about things that he was seeing that nobody else could, including big black dogs. And I really admire the way the writers are like, well, maybe you only see hellhounds when they're coming for you. Then we don't have to do any CGI at all. And everyone said, brilliant. Yes.
brilliant.
But it also works. It also works as far as the lore goes. And I thought that is just like a top shelf prime example of the way these folks are using the mythology in a way that only makes the show better. And it makes the show better in multiple ways because now we don't have to look at bad CGI dogs. They get to save money and it's still very effective.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
they reoccur. Like they created a monster that could reoccur throughout the seasons that was like every time those things showed up, you were like, oh shit, like Sam's not going to die because he never does. But we're going to think he is for like 2 seconds.
He can't see the dogs. He's fine.
He'll definitely be in the process of dying, and then he'll get out of it somehow, or just be brought back from the dead. But yeah, that's a really good example, Luciano, of when they bent the rules or kind of changed the rules from a production level that did not impact the quality of the show, and it didn't feel like their hands were on it. There are also others, like you mentioned in your debate, where it's just like, yeah, that was clearly like, oh shit, why did that? How are we going to do this? You know?
or they realize that they can't kill a character just yet because there's still like 4 episodes to go before the season finale or whatever. So they're like, oh, well, I'm trying to think of a specific example because I hate when people critique things sort of ambiguously. But so
I mean, they
they
killed Bobby, and then they were like, Bobby's ghost is here.
Right. Or like when we first meet Meg and she's still hitchhiking and she like slits that poor creep's throat. I mean, he was a creep, let's be honest, but she slits his throat and she makes that joke about how like, oh, I have to make a call, wink. And so she puts like blood in this bowl and she calls up, whoever, the yellow-eyed demon, we assume. But we only hear her side of the conversation. And she says, like, I could have kept him away from his brother. Like, I could have kept Sam away from Dean. Why didn't you let me? Or screw that. I could have just killed him. I could have killed them both. Why didn't you let me? I'm on the couch going, like, I'm kind of on Meg's side here. Like, this doesn't make a lot of sense.
What are we doing here?
Bureaucracy. Like, do you want these guys around or not? But then you remember, oh, right, plot. There's still like 57 years of this to go.
Yeah.
And Travis will try and watch all of them.
Yes. Do it for Travis, Meg.
The crowning achievement of this show might be that the central hook, like the central dilemma, is so captivating. And it is this idea of like, what do you owe your family? And not only your family, but like the family of man. Why is this important? Like, why are Sam and Dean going to do this? Because first of all, their dad is a bad dad. By all conventional metrics, he is not a good person. But the same could be applied when you look around the world. They're showing you to God, because now we know God exists. So like, God is a bad dad. Why should we be falling in line for this thing when we did not petition to be here or for any of this to happen? And that, I think, exists in every family, whether you have siblings or you're an only child, in which case you are sometimes Dean and sometimes Sam, or you have kids who react in different ways. That shit is universal, and it is very well done on both local and like higher levels. I think the show in that regard is an absolute success.
Yeah, it kept you tuning in, definitely, and it kept a certain magnetism to their relationship, despite the overacting, which I will say I think is a little more towards one of the actors than the other, but I'm not going to say who. You can guess. But I think despite some of the overacting, like you continue to be drawn back to the Sam and Dean relationship. And it's very, I think you're right, Luciano, that a lot of people, even maybe if you weren't an only child, can see themselves as like, oh, sometimes I'm Dean, sometimes I'm Sam. Or like Clayton and I, when we first started watching this show, would do that all the time of like, oh, you're Sam, keep it to me. And I'd be like, oh, you're Dean, because it seemed like the dynamic that fit.
And their arcs line up perfectly
cool.
too, right? So like Dean has to learn to think for himself and not be such a lapdog. And Sam has to learn that you can't only live for yourself, right? And so everybody kind of learns and grows, and all that, it totally succeeds.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I agree.
It's a good time. It's a good time. I have a quick question before we go to break. Because Travis's thought made me think, or his fact made me think of this. When Jensen Ackles was told, basically, cast as Sam and then told, want to be Dean instead? Which would you have rather played? And if you could have played any one monster in all of Supernatural or one of the Supernatural characters, which would you have played? Luciano.
Man. I guess if I was anybody, I would probably... I guess I'd want to be Bobby. Right?
Yeah.
That's the character.
That makes sense.
Who's like ride or die for his friends, or like even the sons of his friend, or like, towards the end when it looks like Armageddon is coming, he doesn't hesitate to trade his soul to get them a potential edge up in the final battle. It's like, oh, if it's all going down anyway, man, I'm going down for my friends. It doesn't matter if I'm in this wheelchair or not. It doesn't matter that I'm, the best years of my life have come and gone, or that we're all going to die screaming or whatever it is. Like, that dude's like there for his friends. And I hope people remember me with like a fraction of that kind of loyalty and dedication someday. I like him a lot. I do like Cass. I think Cass is a fascinating character who never hides the fact that he's just so totally in love with Dean, or enamored with Dean. And even in there's lots of talk of queer baiting in this show, and I think that's probably fair. We haven't touched on that a lot, but it's just because, like you said, Clay, I watched it as a young, dumb, straight dude. A lot of that didn't hit for me at the time. I just thought like, wow, this angel is really enamored with Dean. But I think it's probably because Dean represents a lot of the best qualities of being a person, as problematic as those qualities are, that would appeal to an angel, whether they were both sexy or not.
Yeah, it helps that they're both sexy, but like
it helps that they're both sexy, that everybody is sexy.
So yeah, I guess I would be Bobby, but I could also stand to be Cass.
Yeah, good call. And if you had to choose between Sam and Dean, who would you play?
I guess more often I'm more like Dean, and that seems like a good fit. Also, man, it was so trippy watching this show again after so long, because every time he walks on the screen, I'm like, oh, I owned that jacket. I owned those boots. I owned that. That dude and me. Side note, sorry, real quick. One of the things I've enjoyed a lot more than I ever thought I would was Netflix's revamp of Queer Eye that I watched with my wife. And I love that show. It is pure joy, man. And when I heard that they were remaking that, I thought there's no possible way this is going to be any good. But it's wonderful. And one of the things that the style guru, Tan, often asks people is like, who's your style icon? Because he wants to help them like dress like someone they admire. And I'm watching this and I'm just thinking, oh shit, my style icon is Dean Winchester.
Yep.
Like, I didn't realize that. I spent my life dressing like this guy.
Love that.
Hell yeah. It's that meme of like the secret to surviving the apocalypse is to find a badass jacket and make it your whole personality.
That's right. Yeah. It helps if you have a dog, but also, yes, the jacket first for sure.
Yeah, jacket first.
I'm sorry. I feel like I talked a lot in response to that question. Next.
No, that was great. That was great. You're the guest. Travis.
This is funny because I just said that Clayton and I, when we were younger, used to do the Sam Dean thing, and I was always Sam and Clayton was Dean. But I don't know, Clay, if you feel the same. I think when I was younger, I wanted to be Sam. I really did. And as I'm older, looking at their like internal struggles, I am more Dean, where I am more of the loyalist to the home base. Like I moved back to Montana. I have this like feeling of, we both come home and help with the farm and stuff, but I don't really want to leave this state. I love this state. I want to stay pretty close. And keep that kind of distance as short as possible. So I feel like I've become Dean, but when I was younger, I wanted to be Sam. And then what was the second part of your question? Oh, monster, changeling,
or any other character. Yeah.
Yeah, changeling for sure. I mean, they're the ones that I remember that episode. I think that's the first season. Maybe the second.
It's actually like the third.
Okay.
Third.
Well, whenever
the
it
bank
happened,
robbing one.
Yeah, that was like the most tension I felt for the characters.
That was a good one.
When the monster was Dean, I was like, how the hell are they gonna? That was one of the only times I was like, man, I can't see a solution out of this. Like, this is a tough cookie for them to crack. Most of the time I was like, oh, they're gonna find some like ritual or something that they can do that. But the changeling, I was like, yeah, that would suck for a camera to just like see you committing a crime and be like, it wasn't me, and they're like, this is you. So that if I was to be any monster in that show, I think that'd be the one, because it seems the most terrifying to me. Like, that is just a terrifying type of monster. Something that can look like anything. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. Very fun. I mean, if you've read any of my stuff, you'll know I have a very firm hard on for any shapeshifter creature. And my entire rock climbing trilogy has a shapeshifter creature in it. But yeah, I agree with you, Travis. I think I've gravitated towards being more like Sam. Even though growing up I always thought I was more like Dean. Either way, I think my style inspiration is still Dean, for sure. But or maybe even just Bobby, honestly. Like, if Bobby was a little less greasy, but like I don't dress.
Let the
unlike
record
Bobby.
show the height differential is still I'm Sam and he's Dean, by the way.
That is the height differential for sure. Yes. And just bring those heights down a full foot. And then you have us about the same size.
And then you've got us. Yep.
But yeah, so I would say probably Sam is who I would be more attuned to playing. I do still think Dean would be a more fun character to play, just because he has all the funny, quippy lines.
Also, he drives the car.
He drives the car. Yeah,
He
and that car
drives
is
the car.
sick. If you're a car person, I mean, it is a beautiful car. And if I was going to play any monster, I already referenced him, but obviously my favorite monster in the whole show is the Trickster. He's awesome. Yeah. And his episodes are some of the best episodes. They are comedy-centric, but I just think they're so much fun. The Groundhog Days episode is one of my favorite of all the episodes in all of Supernatural. And the one before is really fun too, with the urban legends that just kind of like pop up, and it's kind of like Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark meets Supernatural. But yeah, I mean, I love trickster creatures. I love creatures that have this sort of like flawed sense of justice, and I think he'd be a really fun character to play. He just gets to be, levity embodied, just kind of like looking at the fuckery, the general fuckery that is existence, and kind of like making a joke out of it, which I think those kind of creatures are fun, or those kind of villains are fun. The Joker's fun for that reason. So yeah, that's my answer. And we should go on our 5-minute break. On the other side, we will be back.
Say
One
more thing before our 5-minute break, because I forgot to say it in my kind of wrap up, is I do think this show genuinely has like iconic scenes of like that will stick in my mind forever. Like the death scene, like Death's entrance when he comes in the white Cadillac.
That is a sick scene.
Brushes the shoulder. Yeah. That's a sick scene. The Groundhog Day episode, like it has a lot of forgettable stuff, but like there are scenes in the show that will stick with me forever because they were really well done.
Mm-hmm. The Four Horsemen are really fun in this show, and Death is a badass character.
I do like the depiction of Death, but can you imagine how thrilled with themselves those writers were when they were like, what if their cars are the color of their horses?
Oh, you know it. Bro.
I've seen a white car. Get it? Like
so good, bro.
Yes.
When he shows up, it's just, this show can't help it, man. It's got to go for the most obvious low-hanging song cue ever. So when Death shows up, oh, Death. Oh, Death.
In case you didn't know who this was.
when they go to heaven, you're absolutely hearing Stairway to Heaven. Really
Yep.
sorry about that, guys. When they hit the road with like these squeal tires, it's definitely Highway to Hell.
Listen, teenage Travis ate that shit up.
The music for this show is like the soundtrack for all of your dad's most fondly remembered hand jobs.
Yeah.
That's exactly, and it probably happened in that car.
Yes.
That's there's no better transition into our break than that. So I don't know what Luciano's gonna do with his 5-minute break, but we've got stuff that we're gonna do. Crank some Cinderella, brother, and enjoy yourself for 5 minutes. Luciano, please turn off your camera and your microphone. That'll kick you off the screen. I'll play our video. We'll see you on the other side, where we'll have a panel discussion about Supernatural. Thanks for being here. We'll see you on the other side. Goodbye. Hello, fermented folks. Welcome to another episode of Fermented Fiction, the first of our new season, and I believe it's season 4. The show where we drink beer and argue with each other and bring on really awesome creative guests.
If you'll permit me to go a little bit outside the box. Once upon a time, apparently, people used to sniff mummy remains, powdered mummy remains, like cocaine. So I think 3 lines of powdered mummy remains, if you can get to that as well. Yeah, that'll get you right to really enjoy the movie, you know?
Dave told us all about making a mead, and I talk shit about Tom Bombadil, as I am wont to do whenever people bring up Lord of the Rings.
You would. You should.
And then that's
everybody
exactly what he
freaking
made.
chill about Tom Bombadil, or I'll get unreasonably upset.
So, in your assessment, what did you think of the everyone kind of paired off, or at least a number of people did, romantically? How'd you feel about that? Did that seem really forced and dumb to you, or?
Tom Bombadil is a merry old fellow with his bright blue jacket and his boots are yellow. Right?
It's our yellow.
Right.
Imagine discovering mummy remains and oh my god, these ancient figures. Dude, what if we crushed this and snorted it, yo? I bet we'd get fucked up.
Let's talk for a moment about the fucking all-star cast in this movie. We have Ewan McGregor slaughtering it the entire time, main character energy, top to bottom. You can't argue with it. Women want him, men want him, everybody wants Ewan McGregor. Okay? If you don't agree with that, you're lying to yourself.
Apparently she had a backstory, but they cut it because she's very hard-nosed at the beginning. And then I will say another pro of this movie is their chemistry is hot. And I feel if they didn't have that chemistry, I would have been ugh. Because she says at one point, she's oh, it's the apocalypse. What are we going to do? Fuck. And he's and then later when they are kissing, if they didn't have chemistry and if it was 2 lesser actors, I think it would have been an eye roll, felt cheesy, but you feel their bond.
The Langoliers themselves were originally going to be portrayed by puppets. And I think maybe they should have. Maybe they should have.
Dude, that's amazing.
There's no maybe about that.
And I wish that I could say that there was something greater happening here than the war diary of a broken man living as sort of this White Tower academic with all of his friends sitting inside the Eagle and Child drinking beer and pretending Magic Lion Jesus isn't really silly. Because, it is. If we can just all be very honest with each other.
The Lord's work out there. Good job.
I like to think that I am. Most people aren't big enough, but I am. I'm willing to step up, you know?
Yeah. Dedicate that time.
You're
willing to dedicate that time.
The time, the money, all of it.
That was so painful. It's one of those painful things.
Oh, that was so
life.
good. That was so good. We've never been so savagely attacked by any author on their show. It's incredible.
Hit those buttons.
You see those words over there? Interact with them. Do them.
Correspond to buttons that are down below. So the like button is like a heart or a thumbs up, and the comment and the subscribe. All of those are buttons, and you should hit those buttons.
They are, and if you hit subscribe, make sure you hit the little bell, because otherwise it won't tell you when we're doing a new episode, which is every fucking week. So think of how many episodes you've already missed because you haven't fucking subscribed, and that is on you.
Amazing guests like Luciano Marano you've already missed.
Yeah. You might as well slap all those other guests in the face. Just not even paying attention to them at all.
We here at Mental Fiction. Other people, other people, they ask kindly, but we're like, you know what? You are insulting our guests.
And we don't take kindly to that around here.
We don't take kindly to that around here. Okay. All that aside, it is time for the panel discussion. And I want to start with a couple fun, maybe quicker. They might branch into larger discussions. We don't know. Questions. And then we're going to get into some deeper ones. One of them, Luciano sort of introduced a pre-show that I really want to talk about. But first, the fun questions. Oh, I already asked one. Did you quit? If so, when? We've already figured that out.
Oh, I didn't answer that, but I quit at season 7.
7.
So I did not get far past season. I tried. I did try because I was genuinely a huge fan of the show. And even I was like,
yeah,
this is a different show now.
See, I almost quit at 7. I almost did, but I think it was 8 or 9. One of the two. They did they did a character I liked. The villain was they did a whole arc with the villain who was Chaos, and she was like, they took this very loose translation of Genesis that says in the beginning was the earth was formless and void, and they were basically, well, what if the formlessness was a thing and it was God's sister?
What if the formlessness was a hot lady?
Yeah, I kind of liked that. I was like, oh, and she like, of course, had the hots for Dean, and that hooked me until 12, but I did like this idea of like nothingness being an entity and taking a form and like trying to bring the world back into nothingness. I thought that was pretty unique, cool, and like, yeah, it worked for me. That's why I kept watching.
You could almost make the argument that the Winchesters are not tough or skilled, but they are allowed to survive because there's always some otherworldly entity that wants to get with them.
Yeah,
for sure.
Satan looks at Sam and he's all like, God, I want to be inside you so bad. The rest of the world, yeah, Chaos is all like, Dean, I can't let them kill you.
I could have killed you so long ago, but oh my word, you're hot.
I wish I knew how to quit you. I wish I knew how to quit you.
I wish I knew how to quit you.
It's very true. Very true.
Okay, my next question, this one will be to Luciano first. I want to know if you guys have had any experiences staying at one of these hotels that these gentlemen frequent. Have you stayed at a shady, like 1-star vacancy sign is flickering in a really weird neon way hotel? And what was that like? Because I've had one and I don't get to talk about it enough. So this is a selfish question, but Luciano.
Yeah, I've stayed in a couple of places a lot like this, and never for more than like, I would say 2 nights, really. It was like a road trip kind of thing. I don't know that I ever had a bad experience, come to think of it. I mean, there were plenty of places where I thought when they ask me for the purposes of a police report why I was here, it's going to be really hard to explain that I just didn't have any more money.
I'm
here
poor.
I am. There's nothing shady about it. There were no drugs or hookers or anything involved. This is where I was. So, but no, I don't have any like special dirtbag hotel stories. No, I did once get thrown out of a dirtbag hotel with some friends of mine because the people next door were complaining that we were smoking, which we absolutely were. And when the guy at the desk like deigned to show up and knock on the door, he was a real dickhead about it. And I was like, I apologized 1,000 times. Like, yes, my friends were drunk. They lit up. They shouldn't have. I'm really, really sorry. It won't happen again. And he was being a real jerk, like threatening to throw us out, but never actually telling us to leave. Like he was really getting off on the power of the situation. And so one of my friends was like, well, what would it cost to like clean the place afterwards if we were smoking? I was like, I already admitted we were smoking. You don't have to lie to this man. But if we were, like a real lawyer.
Allegedly.
And the guy's like, there's like a $400 fee to clean these rooms. And so my friend, just being a real jerk, was like, I'll write you a check for $400 right now. I'll write it to you personally if you promise not to knock on that door again for the rest of the night. This is a drunk, dumb thing to say. And I watched this like night clerk guy sort of look at him and then look at me and then look back at him, realize he was the more drunk of the two of us. And like apology guy was sober and jerk was drunk. And he says, I can't be bought. Which, on the one hand, I thought, wow, what a badass. And on the other hand, I thought, bro, it's the night shift at like the shittiest hotel I've ever seen in my whole life. I might have taken my friend's $400.
I think I would be like, I can be bought.
He didn't even counter. He just said, like,
give him a counter offer.
Yeah.
Make that $550 and we got a deal.
Yeah, $400
So that's
for the
my
cleaning.
only real shady hotel story. I'm sorry.
I love it.
That's great. That's great.
Clay?
Well, I was working on a noir short film when I was very, very early into my acting career. So this was, I don't even remember what it was called, but this was right after I did that movie Stagnant, which you can find online if you want to. It's on itchyrodentfilms.com if you want to see me play a crazy guy who talks to his plants. It was a good time. It was a fun little short film. But same film company, and I played just a very small side character who ended up getting shot. And we were in Yakima shooting on location, location being seedy motel. So we were at a legitimate, super seedy motel. We had also put our cast and crews up in there. And Yakima can get pretty sketchy in certain parts of town if you've never been, but it certainly can. And while we were there, I mean, we definitely heard some gunshots. We're shooting a movie at this time, like a small little indie student film. We heard some gunshots around the area. We were propositioned by prostitutes and drug dealers alike. Multiple members of the crew, just depended on kind of who was wandering by what place at the time. But yeah, nothing like extraordinary, nothing very unique. You can go to a lot of hotels and have this experience if you want. But it was definitely like a pay-by-the-hour hotel, and people were filtering in and out all day, and we were just kind of watching as a crew when we weren't busy, kind of watching this happen. And it's actually quite interesting, these things that I think if you aren't around this part of society, you maybe kind of think to yourself it's not as real as people think it is, or that doesn't really happen. It does. It does really happen. And if you hang around a place where it happens, you'll see that for yourself. And it was interesting for sure. But I don't know. I didn't feel like I was in a ton of danger. I think we were just kind of like harmless young people. But, at the same time, we might have been in more danger than we realized.
Now is an excellent time to remind listeners this episode is brought to you by the Yakima Tourism Board.
Yes.
If you ain't cosplaying Supernatural in Yakima, you ain't cosplaying Supernatural.
I love
Be
it.
a great place to do it.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, Clayton, so I've done a fair we're co-producing and it's not working.
We do that.
Sorry, we do that. This is part of the show, people.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of service work in some of these types of areas, but the funniest story I have, it may be at the same hotel as the one you just told, Clay, because I had probably the possibly worst weekend of my life. Okay, that's an exaggeration. A really bad day. I had a really bad day. I was leaving a wedding. My car broke down. My flight got canceled twice. I was a broke college student. I was down to like $100 to my name, and I was trying to get home to Philadelphia at the time, and I just had nothing. And they kept being like, "Oh yeah, it's smoke in the air, so you don't get your refund because active nature."
We can't control the smoke.
We can't control the smoke. And so I'm like just broken down husk of a man being like, okay, I got to get to Seattle on $100 from this place in Washington. I forgot what town. Anyway, I stopped in Yakima and I called Clayton And he's like, okay, well, I'll come see you when you get here in Seattle, maybe, and I'll drop you off at the airport so you can get home. And I was like, okay, cool. I had to rent this car. And he's like, where are you staying? I was like, Motel 6. And he was like, in Yakima? And I said, yeah. And he's like, no, you're not. I will wire you money. Stay anywhere but there. And I found a different hotel, and Clayton bailed me out. But yeah, that was I've been to shady hotels, but that was probably the funniest story of just my brother being like, I will give you whatever you need to not stay there. Like, do
like,
not
oh, man,
stay.
Make sure you bring enough salt to put around the windows and doors.
Yeah.
For sure.
So that was what made me think of that. But okay, now to the real questions. I mean, that was a good, thank you for your answers. I want to go right to where Luciano kind of brought us before the show. I think is a really interesting conversation about this is an episodic show, at least for the first three to four seasons. 5, I feel like it starts to first initially leave that trajectory. It returns sometimes in the later, but tries to be something else. And that kind of stands in opposition to what we were talking about before the show. These, like, I call them mega movies. They're like 8 to 10 episode shows that are trying to do the same thing that a 90 minute to 2 hour movie does with plot over that entire extended period of hours. And that's a pretty common trend in streaming. So I guess my question would be, like, why does this episodic thing work so well? And where did it go? I guess that's like, yeah. Do you think it's still around? I think you pointed to a good point, Luciano, of like, I don't see much of what Supernatural did anymore. And I'm curious, why did it work in the early 2000s so well? And why do you think it started dissipated so much?
Oh man, it's tricky because I won't lie, this isn't like my area of expertise. I don't write for, film production or series production. Most of what I do is a contained narrative. I would say probably the problem is that this type of entertainment is not prioritized anymore. There was an idea, this was kind of the last gasp of TV as strictly entertainment. The people working on the show did not expect you to watch every episode. You were eventually not going to be home or forget or be sick or whatever. And there was only just beginning to be the idea of these things available on like home video or home like DVD and Blu-ray, so you could watch them over and over again. But if you ever watch, like if you binge through like a really old TV show, you'll see the same character actors show up again and again, but they're different people, which is weird and confusing. But they never thought about that because they never imagined a world in which you watched more than 1 or 2 of these at a time. You didn't have to remember who those people were. And so Supernatural is operating under the assumption that you get the gist of it and you're interested enough, but that there's no homework involved. There's no lore for you to memorize. They will fill you in as you go. And that's definitely the opposite of what we see now, wherein not only are you expected to watch every episode, you should probably watch them in rapid succession, and then you should be prepared to search the internet for explanations and fan theories afterwards. The shows now come with homework, which I don't love.
Yeah.
So
I think that
priority.
A follow-up to that is like, I think the binging, you're right, has like changed a lot of this spectrum. And even myself, like binging shows like Supernatural, you see this trend of like, I love that you mentioned the like you don't have to see every episode because they'll do the previously on segment, and that always I noticed this with Suits. I watched Suits with my wife as just kind of like a we're both brain dead at the end of the day. We need something to just bleh. And every before or previously on segment of Suits only showed you the stuff relevant to the storyline that was going to be in the episode. So I wonder if you have.
No, I agree completely. You're right. They do a really good job of that. But even more impressively is the way they will give you context within the flow of the episode about what you need to know. Dean will say, like, oh yeah, this demon from whatever. And then Sam will go, is that the same one who's mad at us for having killed their familiar back in Wichita? And Dean will say, yeah, totally. You remember that thing with the other thing. And then they'll both go, yeah, and like move on from there. And now you know everything you need to know to watch this episode. And if you're interested, that's just a bonus. You can go back and watch the other one some other time. But
Yeah.
all that you need to know, you know.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. They do a good job of reminding you of it throughout. I think you bring up two really interesting differences in television. And I think there have always been shows that have done this balance of both of those things. But I do think this is one of those shows that was somewhat indicative of that shift in the industry you're talking about, to needing this overarching like mega plot to sort of umbrella your interior plots. And they definitely have like several of those, like the Finding the Dad plot gets concluded. That's like the season one. Every season has its own arc. But there's this mega arc of Satan versus Michael and hell versus heaven and earth over the entire show. They do a pretty decent job, I think, all things considered, considering how many freaking episodes they made. I don't even know how many there are in the first 5 seasons, but I don't know what is there. Like, there's like 30 episodes a season.
I think all 15 seasons had 22 to 23 episodes, except for one season was during one of the writers.
Oh, that's 3 or 4. I can't remember.
3, I think. 3 had 13 episodes. So whatever.
And dude, you can feel the panic. You can feel the panic. Like halfway through that season, when they realize this is about to happen, they're like, "Oh shit, we got to do something." Dean goes to hell. I don't know.
Dean's already in hell. Shit. Sam goes to hell, and he gets Dean out, but then Dean goes to heaven instead of back to Earth because he's already died two, three times in this season, and we have to do something else.
Bro, it's Sam's turn, okay, bro? It's Sam's turn.
It's Sam's turn. Put more demons on the screen.
And they do alternate, but I think this show is a good example of how to balance the two, because they do have like a crazy amount of episodes. They are truly a show you can jump in at any point and go back or go forward. If you like wherever you jumped in, you'll probably do either one of those things. And then there's enough episodes in there and enough like callbacks to them in other episodes that illustrate some sort of movement on the timeline for the mega arc. Like you'll see it, like, for example, they meet their first demon and then we realize this is going to be more than like there's one demon. We're going to start seeing lots of demons. And once we meet our first demon, that kind of opens the floodgates for that. But they also introduce it earlier, because one of the first episodes is that plane episode. It's like 6 or something.
And that's the Invisible Traveler. Yeah, I know, that was a good one. Yeah.
It was a good one, and it was technically the first demon.
Yeah.
But obviously you see a demon first thing because Azazel kills Sam's mom in like the opening scene. Sam and Dean's mom. So I think it balances it well. Another show I can think of that sort of did that was like MASH. Like so many episodes that's like old. So many episodes had a full arc. I mean, pretty much all of them did. So that kind of makes them that same Monster of the Week format. But there was definitely a mega arc over the top of MASH that you could also, and I feel like the difference between what we're talking about with Monster of the Week and these like big mega movies, like Travis is saying, you can't jump in the middle of Breaking Bad and like experience Breaking Bad. You maybe will be like, wow, that's a good show. But the next thought will be, I don't understand any of this. Like, I can tell this show is good, but I don't know why. I don't know any of the characters.
Or the way that Marvel seems to want you to watch like 6 shows to be ready for the next movie.
Right.
Yeah. That's a lot of homework, Marvel. Like, why can't you fill me in here, man?
And they give you the movie marketing team equivalent of a teacher putting up like the topics for the quiz
these are
on the board.
you
That's just their
watch.
previews. Like, here's all your cameos. So make sure that you saw all the Ant-Mans.
I think MASH is a good corollary. I think when you watch the show, you definitely like, okay, you think of it's like Buffy but for dudes, or then it's like the X-Files but with guns, or it's like Kolchak but they're not nerds. And then you get to I don't know, for me the one I always sorry.
I love that.
The one I always think about is
oh man,
the Incredible Hulk, right? It's like Bill Bixby, Lou Ferrigno, the old school Incredible Hulk, where every episode Banner has like wandered into this new town and somehow found a job, but there turns out to be like a thing that needs his help or whatever, and he doesn't want to be the Hulk, but he'll have to eventually be the Hulk, and all the while he's trying to prove that he didn't kill himself, and you're like, oh, this might be the corollary for Supernatural. This might be the show that makes me think of this show the most.
Do you think Hulk would have been? I have a question about Hulk real quick. Do you think Hulk would have been as effective a monster in the days of like mental health therapy being mainstream?
No.
Because he just needs to learn to manage his anger and he'd be fine. But he knows, he's like, every sound he wanders into, he's like, someone's going to piss me off.
That is
Clay, you didn't do the homework. That's the new Hulk. He's just like, he's accepted Hulk.
I didn't get the
fine.
new
He's
Hulk.
just always Hulk. He's Professor Hulk now.
No, I think that's my favorite moment from the first Avengers movie when Mark Ruffalo's like, oh, you didn't figure out my secret, did you, Cap? I'm always angry. His body can't tell the difference. Like if you're fucking pissed all the time, it's like, oh, this is the new status quo. You can't be the Hulk all day.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fair. You can't.
I think Incredible Hulk is a good comparison. I would also say, as soon as you talked about the like recurring characters that are always, I thought of like old westerns. I think this movie
totally.
This show sometimes does play a lot like an old western with that episodic feel because they had to keep it contained in the same town. And so you had to have like these consistent plot lines of like, oh, the main cowboy dude has this like, will they, won't they romance with the tavern owner. And like, that's going to continue on throughout the season. But in the background, it's like, who's robbing sheep this episode? Who's breaking into the bank this time and throwing a Molotov cocktail? I don't know. Oh, did you just reuse the same actor for like 6 different villains? Who cares?
You're totally right about the Western, man. It is definitely a Western. It's a neo-Western for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
even
you know,
how many shots end with them, or how many shows rather end with like a shot of them literally riding off into the sunset on this like black steed.
Your description of the end of every episode of Supernatural was absolutely perfect.
Oh no.
Like it's Sam being like emotionally devastated.
I was just gonna say,
looking
Luciano,
stoically.
you got to do the Sam face for the viewers on YouTube again. There it is.
Then Dean does like pouty Clint Eastwood.
Yep.
And then just like REO Speedwagon, and we're done.
Yeah, call it a day. REO Speedwagon into the sunset.
I do want to. I want to stick on this for a second and talk about. I do think the prevalence of like the mega movie format is huge, and I'm trying to think if I can think of any examples of like an episodic show, and it's so bad, not bad, but like. This might be something that's completely gone because I'm even thinking of the comedy I'm watching right now is a show called Rooster. It's a Steve Carell show on HBO Max. I'd say it's decent. I have some problems with it, but like it's fun enough that I keep tuning in. And even it is not episodic. It's if you missed an episode, you're missing some plot points that like are necessary for the through line of him and his daughter's relationship. So even like a baseline pure comedy is not episodic anymore. And I'm curious if you guys think, is there anything you've seen today that follows this old type of format, or is it dead?
Rick and Morty.
Rick and Morty is a good example. I was thinking of that too. Yeah, there are examples of like true anthology shows, something like Black Mirror.
I thought of that
each
too.
episode is its own thing. But no, I do think it sort of still exists in the sitcom world. If you look at something like Abbott Elementary, I think that's a wonderful sitcom that's truly episodic, but also does have sort of carryover larger themes. Yep. But there aren't many, man. It's just not the way it's designed for us to watch anymore. But I promise you, if you spoke to somebody older than us, someone who still watches regular broadcast TV, I'm sure they will tell you about the whatever's to be enjoyed in like the new CSI to the 27th spinoff of NCIS or whatever the hell it is. I think Yellowstone is kind of sort of like that.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. The Paramount Plus catalog.
They're also literally bringing back the X-Files and giving it to Coogler.
Oh,
you know?
I'm so glad you brought that up because I was about to say one of my absolute kind of pisses me off. One of my favorite things about Supernatural is that it is an original property. And
Yep.
we've remarked about how similar it is to other things or how it rips off other things, like the way Tarantino does. That's not necessarily a fault if you do your own thing with it. But I'm very wary of this idea that people are finding success in horror, someone like Ryan Coogler or someone like Zach Krieger, whose next movie is supposed to be, is it Resident Evil or Silent Hill? I can't remember.
Resident Evil, I think.
These guys, like, you won, dude. Like, you did everything right. You made original things. Why would you then immediately be like, do more franchise extension and IP maintenance? Like, no. You missed the point entirely. Especially Coogler, who already did his stint propping up fucking Rocky, and he did it very well. But now he's going to be rewarded with the chance to make an X-Files reboot after that show, which is honestly like my favorite show, except maybe the original Twilight Zone. The X-Files is like near and dear. That shit hasn't been good in like 25 years, man. Come on, what are you doing? You won, and this is what you're going to do? Put that guy on the cover of Missed the Point magazine. This is your chance.
Do you want to know my like the one that grinds my gears the most of that exact thing you just talked about is Adam Wingard. Adam Wingard made Your Next, VHS, and The Guest, like three truly original horror thrillers that are, not everyone's cup of tea, but they swung for the fence of originality, and he was doing something cool. You know what his last three movies were? The Blair Witch remake, Death Note live action, and Godzilla versus Kong. Like, he fully went into the French, and I'm like, dude, you had it. Like, Your Next is such a good movie, and The Guest, I think, is super underrated. If no one's watched it, go watch The Guest.
Yeah,
very underrated thriller.
The Guest is good, and
I know they didn't make the money he probably wanted, but yeah, that one, I'm with you, Luciano. Like, I don't get it.
That is it's rich old man thinking. It's some executive somewhere who's like, oh, that young kid made a good movie. Give them all of the money to do the thing I want, or the thing I own. And I mean, look, if Zach or Ryan, if you ever pay attention to this, I'm not making fun of you. If they backed a dump truck full of money up to my house, I'd do that shit too. I'm just saying, I hate to see real, like, legit talent at the forefront of what we're trying to do here go backwards instead. And for all the faults of Supernatural, it was its own thing.
That's true. I will say, we should remember the fact that Coogler has done this a lot of times. And I think he is an expert at putting an original stamp on something that's being retooled. That is not always the case. And I think a lot of what we hate about remakes is that they're worse and that they suck. Or that they like try to do something original and the larger fan base kind of sees it as a defamation or a misstep rather than an intentional choice that was really bold to make. Black Panther is a good example of this. That was a good Marvel movie. And like, there's a lot of good Marvel movies. Like, I hate on Marvel all the time, and there's tons of reasons to do so, but there's also good ones. So it's not like Ryan Coogler hasn't done this before, and he did the same thing with Creed. And I think the thing that people are excited about is about the fact that somebody is going to tell those stories from a different perspective that puts them at the centrifuge of the narrative rather than on the periphery. And I think that's what he did with Creed. Creed was a side character in Rocky, and he put that community at the center of the narrative rather than on the periphery or as a villain.
I think that's a good point.
He did the same thing with Sinners, and I totally understand. I wish they would just make a new paranormal investigator show and write it themselves. That'd be great. But I think what they're trying to do is that nostalgia factor that also incorporates a new perspective. And I think Coogler will do that well. So I can get excited about that aspect of sort of the X-Files in the modern lens. But I agree with you. It would have been cool if it was new. But Coogler is also potentially the exact person for the job. So
he totally is. I'll give you that. And I'm going to watch it. I'm excited for it. And I'm totally rooting for him. That guy is a genius. What I wish is that we lived in a world where he had gotten the chance to do the adaptation of Lovecraft Country. Lovecraft Country would have been,
that'd be great.
That would have been his X-Files, and he would have gotten it right.
Yeah.
That's a great point. And that would have been new, and he would have been the perfect person to write it. But yeah.
I will, and to your point, Clay, I think he did two of the best, like, Creed 3, I think, was a fantastic way to. People were automatically mad when they heard the headlines that it was going to be the first one without Sylvester Stallone, and he took it and ran and did a really good job, like transitioning from the, okay, Rocky's gone, now this is just Creed, and I think he did great there. And then Wakanda Forever, he had like the writing problem that no one could ever anticipate of your
that was never going to come out well.
Your primary actor like dying tragically of cancer before. And he like did a damn decent job. Like there's flaws with that movie, but it was pretty damn good for the situation he had. Luciano, what is your heart out, sir? Because I have 2 more questions, but if you only have time for one, I'll only ask one.
No, I can do 2 more. Go for it.
Okay. First one, I want to talk about through lines because we mentioned that a couple times, and just there's a sort of double-sided question that I've been ruminating on. In television, especially in this sort of serial episodic form that we're talking about, the through line seems to be this, like what Clay said, this dome that covers the whole thing, that like no matter what episode you bounce into, you're going to get the brother relationship with Sam and Dean of like, one is this way, the other one's this way, and they're kind of feuding over how to fulfill those roles and how to grow in them. And that's going to be everywhere through, even though each episode is an isolated plot. But I want to know, as writers, with that in context, like when you're writing series, because you've written, a trilogy, Luciano. I don't know if you've written more than one trilogy. I know about Hidebound. I have it on my shelf. Clayton is now in the process of writing a trilogy. That's a different kind of through line. I feel like it's like a stack. You're like building on the things that are happening, right? So I kind of would like to open panel discuss that difference. If it is a difference, how do you tackle the through line thing when you're trying to write for a longer story, not just a single isolated one?
Man, that's tough because I don't envy the writers of a big show like this, the job of keeping something going ostensibly indefinitely, right? No one has told them, all right, we're going to do this for 5 seasons, or, we're going to do this for 15 seasons. And so they're constantly like running along a track that they're not sure when it ends, yet they're responsible for bringing it to some sort of satisfactory close. For my, the Werewolf trilogy, I wrote 3 novellas and I had a plan for 3. I had a publisher who was interested in a series of at least 3. I sent them the first book and I sent them outlines for the other 2. And we all sort of agreed that this had legs, but it also had a definite ending. So I have no experience or like comparable knowledge that I could direct towards the idea of how you would possibly do this with no end date or no expiration. I think that's incredibly hard. You'd have to take it one season at a time and just sort of trust the producer to know that every season finale might be the series finale, depending. And that's very stressful.
Yeah, that is a hard. I mean, I'm thinking of Firefly. Like, it wrapped up well enough the first season, but like the movie kind of ties a couple of those bows that you miss because they clearly had more to tell.
Yeah. Or there's a famous example of like bygone TV wherein for a time in the early 90s, like NYPD Blue was the cutting edge like cop drama. It was considered incredibly realistic and very gritty and boundary pushing. And I think it's like halfway through the second season, what's his face? Caruso decides that he wants to go be a movie star, and he up and like kind of leaves the show. He was the main guy, or at least the co-main guy next to Dennis Franz. And so suddenly he's gone and like the show doesn't know what to do. I don't know. I'm a prose fiction writer. The characters all more or less do what I say. That's not true when you're working on a show where you have to cast like actors who decide to move or leave, or someone needs time off because they're ill or pregnant or whatever it is. Like that's a lot of shit that I have no experience with.
To that though, as a prose fiction writer, like you still have that through line, and yes, you know the ending, but I know I don't think I've talked to a fiction writer yet that hasn't told me that like somewhere along the line in the middle it adjusts, and like you characters go a place that you don't know they're going to go, and you have to change that sort of like path a little bit. Like, could you walk us through what's your experience with that?
Yeah, I don't know how it works for you, Clay, but I'm always very sure about the beginning and the end. And then, yeah, there's some weird stuff that happens kind of in the middle where as I get to know the people more, they behave more or less the way I thought. But in the ways that are different than I had planned, I do sort of have to recalibrate. So I know where we're ending up, but I don't know exactly how we're going to get there. And I kind of like that experience, just personally for me. I write usually with like a list of scenes, maybe note cards or maybe just like a checklist, but it's not super detailed because I trust that sort of thing is going to happen. And as long as I know what the next main beat is or the next main sort of scene is, I trust myself to get there eventually. And when I feel lost or when I feel like it's not going well, I take some solace in the idea that I do know how it ends. I'm sure of that. And so all I have to do is rethink how we get there from wherever it is in the story that I am. And to remember that at least, where I work at in the indie sort of publishing world, there's almost never an editor or a publisher breathing over my shoulder in the moment, like waiting for that. There's no producer who needs pages at the end of the day. I've promised this to an editor in like several months. So if I have to think about it for a day or two, I've got to mull it over. That's not the end of the world. That would be a very different thing if I was in the writer's room of a big time successful network drama.
Clay?
Yeah, and if they were just like, your main character, you don't have that character anymore. Character's gone. I know you developed a lot of arcs for that character and that they were the central point around which the entire narrative spins, but they're gone.
Now you're looking at a notebook that's like essentially as useful as like a box of Kleenex.
Yeah. Actually, it's a lot less useful than Kleenex because you can't use it for that. It's not going to work. It's not going to work at all. If you don't have a wood burning fire stove, that shit is completely useless now. Yeah, I don't always know where my stories end, like early in the writing process or before I start, but I always know where it's going to end before I get there. I think you could also maybe make the argument that a story hasn't ended until you know how it ends. And that sounds like a bullshit thing to say, but I actually mean it. Like sometimes you think you've ended your story and you've like written the end, but then you reread it and you completely change how it ends because you realize you didn't really end it the way you wanted to or the way it needed to end. So maybe that's like when I find my endings too, a lot of the time. I think I type the end a lot of the time and that doesn't end up being the ending. But that is kind of speaking to short fiction. With my trilogy, like I do know how it's going to end because I've been writing it for 2 books. So I've thought about it a lot and I do have a very specific like scene in mind and I don't usually have that. I mostly write short stories. So yeah, it is an interesting experience to have that way ahead of time. And then I kind of think of other scenes that are going to happen ahead of time. I don't know if you do that much, Luciano, but while I'm writing one scene, I'll think of a scene that I want this scene to lead to, like down the line, because I'm like, oh, this is sick, and I'm going to tie it back in with this thing, and then those can be tricky too, because sometimes you think about them and you're already basically wanted to write them, but then the story doesn't go in that direction, and you have to decide whether you're going to shoehorn it in somehow, or you're just going to forget about it. But I think you also do that subconsciously.
It's best and worst when the new idea is the scene that should happen just before the one you're writing now. You're like,
yeah, so you go back.
That's so much better.
Nothing nothing 6 little asterisks in the center of your page can't fix,
Yeah. I love it.
I'm watching Supernatural and I can't help but think, like, as a writer, the season 5 ends and I keep thinking, all right, that's a pretty fair ending. Like, I don't know that everyone's super happy, but is everyone ever super happy with the way a show ends? Like, all right, fine, that's cool. But this goes on for 10 more years.
Yeah.
10 more years.
Yeah.
That's bananas.
What would I do? What would you do, Clay? Like, what would I do if I was in the writer's room when the big executive producer or whatever comes through and goes, hey, guess what? Greenlit, we're doing at least 2 more. And you gotta go like, oh no, like we're done. That was
we're done.
Like that was how it was supposed to end. We always thought we'd end it that way. Dean's happy. Sam's like sacrificed himself. It's very Jesus-y. Are you not happy with that? I don't understand. And
I thought you wanted more Jesus.
Yeah. The producer was like, no, there's like a Mississippi riverboat full of cash out there from so, 2 more, bro. 2 more.
2 more.
Oh,
Keep it going.
What are we
No,
doing?
I've referenced
Baby's got
this
a lot of mileage left in her. Let's go.
I've referenced this a couple times on the show, but like my wife and I were watching Blue Bloods for a long time, which was actually, it's not great television, but it was decent, like episodic television, cop show, pretty standard, Donnie Wahlberg being Donnie Wahlberg.
Sure.
And it's one of the other few things I've never finished because the last 2 seasons are literally like, you can see that writer's room and the production company being like, hey, we need more of this because people love it. And they're like, we're done, man. Because like episodes are doing the same plot lines like over and over where I'm like, wait, didn't this character conflict get resolved like 3 seasons? I remember 3 seasons ago, you had this same fight and you fixed it. Like, why is it here again? And that's like every episode of the last 2 seasons. And I think that happens in Supernatural where it's like, hey, you got to keep making this. And they're like, no, we're done. Like, stop.
Every single show in the history of pop culture is ended too early or let go way too long. These are your only choices. Yep. Like nothing's ever like, you know what? We had 8 good seasons. Like, there we go. Or whatever. That never, ever, ever happens.
I disagree. I think Breaking Bad does that.
You think
Breaking
Bad ended when it ought to have?
Perfectly.
It was
I think it was written for 5 seasons exactly to the point it ended, and they stopped.
But they did make a spin-off show and a movie.
That's
that's not the same thing, though.
It's not.
Breaking Bad was over. Breaking Bad was over, and you get more content for sure. But like, Breaking Bad was a completely completed show.
I'm currently watching
Westworld, however, perfect example of what you're talking about.
So speaking of all this, if you dare to Google Supernatural in any sort of way, you will find out that like the main cast is really excited about the idea of a reboot. Like all of them have apparently expressed in public the idea that this should happen. And I just want to say now, if no one else has said it, please don't.
Please don't do that.
Please don't. Let me put that out on the internet right now. As a fan, as someone who really enjoys at least the first 5 seasons of the show, please don't do that.
Jared Padalecki, keep making the remake that you're in of Walker, Texas Ranger. Do that.
Whatever it is,
Jensen being Batman.
Hell yeah.
Don't remake Supernatural.
whatever those guys think they'll get out of this, you will never be more beloved. You will never be cooler. You will never be trendier. Your like legacy will never be more secure. Like whatever it is you think you're getting out of this, it's not going to happen. Please don't.
Please don't. I agree wholeheartily. All right. I have one more question and we can get out of here. Thank you, Luciano, for giving us a little extra of your time. I know. We really appreciate it.
Happy to do it, man. Having a blast.
This is the pretentious question of the week. I'm going to give a little insight too to the listeners on Fermented Fiction. The pretentious question of the week pretty much comes from I'm deep in literary criticism Substack, and I read a lot of stuff about people ranting about modern problems they have with writing or whatever, and it makes me think. And I want to ask writers these questions. So the question I have today for you, pretentious question of the week, is one based on an article I read recently that was kind of criticizing the newest Star Trek show, comparing it to the old Star Trek shows. And I really liked what he said about like, it's not this stupid term wokeness that's thrown around. What he said is what he theorizes a thing lost in a lot of modern writing is, I won't generalize too much, is ideals versus fleshed out characters as your start. So, and I just kind of generally want to talk about this. And Supernatural made me think about it because Sam and Dean are characters that were plopped right into people who are fleshed out. They have personalities. Mm-hmm. And the thing this writer talked about in his article is the conflicts come from these people who already have personalities, philosophies, ideals conflicting, like running into barriers of the outside world that cause conflict and make them think. And we as an audience run into those things with them. And he says that's what like old Star Trek did with like Picard is a character when you start the show.
Mhm.
And the conflicts come with Picard as a character running into things that conflict with his philosophy versus every character being this kind of like cookie cutter blank slate to come to an identity, almost like everything is an origin story. And yes, I think that's too broad of a generalization, but I do want to talk about that point of like, do you think you see that as a trend in TV and movies specifically? And do you think it actually is a problem for ideals to take the place of pre-fleshed out characters kind of being the driving force of your plot, if that makes sense? I hope.
So the idea is that characters exist only to stand in for certain worldviews.
Yeah, and are kind of like blank slates instead of being like the worldview can still happen. So I think that's the point he makes with the Star Trek thing. And I'm referencing this like Substack article, but I can cite it in the description later if you want. But he's saying like the old Star Trek was actually talking about worldviews that were pretty like like pushing the boundaries at the time, old and next gen. But they were doing it through the lens of the character who was already established rather than like making the ideal the character and kind of taking us along that origin story with it. So I hope that wasn't too convoluted, but it's definitely something I want to talk about with other writers.
And I'm gonna have to think about that for a minute. Clay, do you have any immediate thoughts? not to toss the ball too hard here, but I really do have to think about that for a second.
I honestly just think I don't think it's like a trend in modern cinema. I think it's something that people go back and forth in. I think there's a lot of stuff in storytelling that's like cyclical and sort of a byproduct of the way selling your art works. Like there's gonna be a wave of, oh, we need to remember where this character comes from, or the cool part about this story, the part that's not being told in the modern zeitgeist is the beginning of this story, so we're gonna tell that. And then you'll see a wave of Peter Parker Spider-Man origin stories. And then people will get sick of those and start talking on Reddit about how there's too many origin stories and we don't need to see the origin story for every superhero. And then a slew of movies that just put you right in the middle of the battle with the superhero and kind of expect you to already have the information show up. Now, I think that's a very different thing from what you're talking about, but I just think it goes in waves, and I think that permeates the indie sphere and the smaller markets just as much as the larger ones. Just less people see it and hear about it and read it. So I think it's more about it is a cyclical kind of trend, not this like trend that's gotten worse since olden times and completely ruined modern cinema or whatever. But I do think those are definitely two very definitive ways to tell a story, right? Like your characters kind of stand in for an ideal or a viewpoint, or they are very well fleshed out people who you're meant to connect with and see yourself in to a sufficient degree, and then we watch them experience the thing, and it makes us ask how we would experience the thing. I think those are two primary ways to use your characters. I can think of examples of both. I think I do think the standing in for ideals is very common. Anything archetypical. I mean, we just talked about Hyperion a couple days ago, and I mean I guess that's pretty old, so maybe that's more, but that's an older example of kind of the same thing he's talking about, you know. I guess you could make the argument that Breaking Bad is like that, like they are very representative of different communities in the drug world, including the families of drug running people, but they also come in as really fleshed out characters. So I don't know where do you draw that line? And then is that somewhere where a spinoff maybe benefits because we know Saul very well? So then you can tell us Saul's story and we're kind of already pre-invested. But anyway, I use Breaking Bad all the time because I think it's just a good example of a
So
lot of
good.
this stuff. But there's certainly shows that don't do it as well. And yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Later seasons of like pretty much any season but the first of like True Detective is a good example to the other side. Like all those characters we're supposed to believe they're fleshed out, but a lot of the times they're very clearly standing for ideals. I think you have to know which one you want to do, and not that you can't do both, I guess, but I don't know. Has that helped, Luciano?
No, yeah, I actually think it has, because I agree with you. It's not a problem for me if a character's primary purpose in the narrative is to represent a certain viewpoint or set of ideals if I believe that person. So
Yes.
what are some like real sterling examples here of like the Scarlet Letter, right? The Reverend is very much the institution. He is everything that is good and bad about this church authority, including the hypocrisy. And I feel like I do get to know that guy by the end of the book. I don't side with him, but I get to know him. Yeah. Or there's this idea that, man, what's another really good one? Oh, the chief in Jaws, Chief Brody, right, is going to be the voice of reason. He's going to be the voice of order. The shark hasn't done anything like wrong, but the shark's got to go because he's protecting the community, and he's going to do whatever is necessary, whether it hurts businesses or not, to like protect these people, because that's his job. And so I get to know him as a cool kind of guy, despite the fact that he's kind of a stand-in for state authority, I suppose, which is not an easy thing to be sympathetic about. I guess where I fall down, or where I don't love it so much, is when a character is an obvious example of something that the creator, be they a prose fiction writer or a showrunner, very much wants to celebrate or to attack. I think when you devise a character that is solely there for the purpose of being up on a pedestal or pelted with rocks, I don't love that. That's very simplistic. And I actually, not to be too like real world about this before we end for the night, but I do think that we've done that a lot in our culture. It's sort of like, I need to know which side you're on before I care what it is you have to say.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's a problem. And it's a problem that stems from fiction. I think not to be like put fiction writers too prominently into the spotlight, but I once heard William Gibson, like the father of, cyberpunk, say that he felt like it was his generation of sci-fi writers' fault that we were unable to envision better futures, because the only futures they gave us were dystopian and awful. We were reacting to the golden age, and we thought we were really like punk rock. We were going to show you how this was not true, and that's what you guys ran with, and now there is no good version of the future. William Gibson, in my opinion, is putting too much pressure on his own shoulders for that. Like, we could envision better worlds without you. However, he's not wrong in that there were less and less good shining examples in science fiction to look to. So this idea that, to bring it back to Supernatural, I do admire the fact that these two brothers have very different reactions to familial and I guess we'd call it spiritual obligation. This idea that they are reacting to the same basic call to goodness in very different ways. I think that's nuanced and worth celebrating. The idea of creating characters as piñatas or as like golden calves, I think that is a problem, and it's a shorthand, and it's something that was prevalent, if you know your history, it was all over the place in the pulp magazines of like the 20s and 30s. Writers would use that as a shortcut all the time. They would introduce you to like the corrupt politician, or like the greedy church person, or like, there were all these shortcuts. Often a lot of them were tied up in ethnicity in very, very unfortunate ways, but they were trying to tell you something about a character in a very short amount of time because they only had a certain amount of words. I can forgive a bit of that as being of its time, but it's a tradition that we should have long since kind of walked away from. And if you're just going to replace race with like occupation, or race with religion, then we kind of haven't walked far enough, in my opinion. So I think it very easily becomes simplified and problematic.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned the oh man, I forget how you phrased it, but like when you can criticize or uplift something, but when like that's the whole goal you have, like that sometimes shows up as disingenuous, maybe non-sincere. And I was talking about this exact same subject with a friend earlier about And the movie that came up was Shrek. Like Shrek is clearly a like teardown of old Disney. It's like an insult. Like Lord Farquaad is
Yeah, the prince is the bad guy. Yeah.
Yeah, like apparently a caricature of the actual like CEO of Disney at the time. Like, but Shrek himself is like a fleshed out character whom his main conflict isn't that. It's the outside world that we interact with. His he's a hermit curmudgeon that hates fairy tales. And the question the writer asks is like, what if he fell in love? What would that look like? And I think that's cool that it like walks us into that. But
or like look at Les Mis, right? So like Javert, the lawman, has been looking for this outlaw his entire life. He's basically Ahab. It's driven him insane because he cannot believe that there is a person who breaks the law who is also a good person. And so Javert is all like, listen, I obeyed the law to the letter every day my entire life. That's how I know I'm a good person. And when he encounters this man who has done something wrong or illegal and is also a good person, it just fucking destroys his brain. And so in a lot of ways, if you want to critique an institution or a system of belief as a fiction writer, you almost have to write the opposite. You have to write someone who believes it so hard that they fail at it. You have to write somebody who 1,000% believes it in an incredibly literal, no room for argument kind of sensibility.
Yeah, I mean that's the secret sauce that makes South Park successful. That's how they do. That's how they satire almost everything. They take it and they put it in the hands of their buffoon citizens, and they go like, "You guys react to this," and we laugh at it because it's hilarious. But it's also like an analysis. What's up, Trav?
A beautiful thing about Les Mis that Luciano just mentioned, Javert and oh my word, names slip out of my head faster than anything.
Jean Valjean.
Jean Valjean are based on the same guy.
Yeah.
Victor Hugo like knew a man who he like thought had these conflicting personalities of like the lawfulness, but also this like, and he kind of split that personality and it took it to its absolute extremes and created these two characters that conflict with each other, which is so cool.
Or
and
like in the first movie version, there's that wonderful breakdown scene where Javert is like, I knew it, and he's like tearing them apart and he's screaming about how like that's the guy, I knew it, you didn't believe me, I'm not crazy. And then later he has to realize that no, you are kind of crazy.
You are.
You're the only one.
Actually, you are though,
and it destroys his life.
Yeah. To your point of like seeing people as not just the things that they're supposedly representing, which I don't know if that's how you put it, but that's how it it came in my brain. Let me know if I'm wrong.
No, you were much more succinct and better at it.
But to know that it was the same guy. It's always been powerful to me to be like, you might think these are two opposing personalities, but they lived in the same brain. And like you, like that's there. Like the people you're meeting face to face are probably having those same internal conflicts, and you're not giving them credit for it because you can't see past the like exterior thing that you're so obsessed with.
And I think that's important to keep in mind when you watch Supernatural, because otherwise it's a very rural, white, conservative, Christian, straight worldview, right? It would be really easy to attack these guys for a lot of that. But it's a show that has obviously appealed to many, many people of many different types of personalities and lifestyles and all of that. It's there's much more to it here because they meant it, because they really, really meant it. And for all the other things that we're criticizing here, I think originality and sincerity are the coins of the realm in Supernatural.
Yeah, I think that's the true coins of the realm and everything. And there can be brilliance found all over the place if those things are part of the process. So I totally agree. Hopefully y'all found this discussion pretty original. I certainly did. Luciano, it was a great time to have you back on the show, my friend. Before we let you go, can you tell everybody one more time who you are, what you do, where they can find you?
Yeah, this was a blast, guys. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I babbled and kept us a little bit late.
No, it's great. It's great.
Marano. I'm thrilled to be here. I am a photographer, a journalist, an author. You can find me online. You can find me on Instagram. My handle is Ghost Town Gossip. My most recent book is Gargoyle Safari, which is my debut short story collection out in the world now from Journal Stone. I hope you check it out. I hope you dig it. If you prefer holiday horror or a contained narrative, I've got a new novella out called Humbug, which is a Christmas horror story based on A Christmas Carol. Readers and critics have been very kind to that, and I'm thrilled that it's finding an audience because that is the first book I dedicated to my wife. We were watching The Muppet Christmas Carol, and she asked me
That's a banger.
if it was supposed to be scary, if the original story was supposed to be scary, and I said, I think it was, but it's not anymore. Let me see what I can do about that. Let me see what I can do for you about that. Anyway, thank you very much for inviting me. I did sincerely enjoy this conversation, and I did sincerely enjoy the first 5 seasons of Supernatural. Thank you.
Likewise on all counts. And I appreciate that you're bringing the scary back to A Christmas Carol. Really do appreciate that. I mean, maybe I would have liked it if it was like a new story or a new concept.
Totally true.
I don't know why you aggressed, Luciano. Come on.
I
thought with Gargoyle Safari you were taking a step forward, but
I did a couple of interviews where some smart people were like, you really hate remakes. Why did you do this? And I thought, what? That's a fair question. And I would say, I guess if I was being really, really generous to me, is that
which is what you should be.
Yeah, the appeal was that this has been done so many times, and I thought, could you do something new with this? Like, it's like a Hollywood producer put a gun to my head and was like, do this better, and I would say, well, I don't know about better, but how about different? I could give you slightly different. So I hope that if anyone reads that, whether you dig the book or not, I mean, obviously I hope you do dig it, but what I hope you take away from it is that there are, I would hope, innovative ways to even treat something that familiar. So don't remake the X-Files. Don't remake Supernatural. Do your own Supernatural. Do the thing that, like, we'll all watch it and we'll be like, wow, that person loves Supernatural. But you know what? So did I. I like this show.
Yep.
Well said. And we were definitely just giving you some shit, buddy. Thanks for being on the show. And Travis, thanks for hosting with me yet again. He's been Travis Vermullen. I've been Clay Vermullen. This has been Supernatural with Luciano Marano. And one more thing we're going to do before we let you go. We got to rate this thing. And we almost forgot.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, I totally forgot.
How many drinks or substances of your choice do you need to enjoy Supernatural to the fullest? And now, that's a big commitment, so you have to think about a big picture. Like, how can you ride all the way from season 1s to 5, roughly 150 episodes, to the end? Luciano.
This is honestly, I forgot this part of the show. All right. You can't be too drunk to enjoy Supernatural. I'm going to call this show is, you know what? This show is a late May senior year high school kegger. All right. Yeah. It starts at fucking noon and it doesn't end until you run out of booze. That's just how it will only help you enjoy this show. And I mean that in the both best and worst possible ways. If you ever went to a party as a young, healthy person when the hangovers weren't debilitating and you thought, wow, we did a little too hard yesterday, that's how drunk you need to be when you watch this show.
Yep.
That's a great rating, and a great description as always. You certainly have a way with words. We can tell you've practiced. That was a very succinct, solid description.
I read a lot of Raymond Chandler metaphors.
There you go.
Nice. Love that.
I do agree with Luciano that there's really no too drunk. I think if you're drunk watching this show, you're probably in the right place. You can also watch it sober and have a good time. But I'm on like several rewatches at this point, so it's nice to have a couple beers or something. I'm gonna go to whiskey because I think that's the most commonly consumed beverage on the show. They do drink a lot of beer, so I would say this is how you do it. Every episode, you need to drink like the equivalent of 2 of something. So 1 good glass of whiskey or 2 beers, and you should watch this show in succession until you feel like at that kegger that it's time to go pass out on the stairs. That's when you stop, and then you just pick it back up when you're ready. But here's how you do it. You start with a whiskey. If you want to play on hard mode, start with a Fireball, just to thematically match the show, and then go. Also, that pilot is pretty poopy. So you're gonna have to like get through the pilot, and Fireball just sort of like encapsulates the whole experience. Now, the first time they drink a beer, so you're gonna have to drink Fireball until they drink the first beer, which I think is in episode 2. You will then switch to beer, and then you drink 2 beers per episode until they drink whiskey for the next time, and then you switch back to whiskey. And you have a drink every show. And then mix it up anytime another character brings another substance to the party. You have to join that with them for this episode. So like when you meet Ash for the first time, you better take a hit, and just like get on Ash's level a little bit. Maybe play some Minecraft and like just get in the zone. But that's mine. Yeah, Ash is he's a character.
He is a character.
And when the trickster shows up, you gotta reel a line for sure.
Yep.
Because that's what he's doing. Cosmic lines.
All right. As always, I have an easy mode and I have a hard mode. I did the math. If there's 22 episodes per season, except for season 3, which had 13, then there's 88 episodes in 4 of those seasons and 13 episodes in 1, which totals 101 episodes. So here's easy mode. You're going to play 99 bottles of beer on the wall. And during the recap of every episode, you're just going to sing the song to yourself while it's recapping the stuff that you already saw and you don't need to see again. You're going to say 99 bottles of beer on the wall, 99 bottles of beer. And you're going to get all the way down to 0. And then you're going to have 2 more. And those are going to be consumed in the finale. 3 beers in the finale. Okay. So that's 101 beers throughout the whole show. That's easy mode. Hard mode.
Easy mode is also known as a suicide note.
Hard mode is you do that, the 101 beers throughout the entirety of 5 seasons. So you're not drinking these all in one day. That's why it's easy mode.
Sure.
101 beers throughout the entirety of 5 seasons. And then the hard mode is you add a shot of whiskey for every time you hear "Carry On My Wayward Son."
How many times is that?
Every episode. So 101 shots of whiskey.
That's not every episode.
It's close.
More than
it's a lot of times.
It's close. It's really close. So it's probably like 85 shots of whiskey and 101 cans of beer.
Look,
don't forget your dad.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and with that, carry on, our wayward audience. Thank you for being here tonight. Carry on, Luciano. Carry on, Travis.
Make the Sam face. I'll make the Dean face.
Okay, ready? Wait, 1, 2.